Yo guys, welcome to the Zelda fiction. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with Hanabi? Part 2. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. Come on Naruto-kun, don't you want to keep touching me? Giggle a sensual voice towards the blonde ninja. Feeling what were female hands rubbing and caressing all around his lower body. I won't bite at all and even use my breasts if you want. Said the teasing voice as the boy let out a sharp breath. Feeling them doing just that and engulfing their lower body part between their breasts. Then let out a moan when another pair of boobs began rubbing against him with the first party. Snickering and sounding very sensual with their tone, "Oh please, I think my boobs are more softer and plump than theirs, right?" announced the second female. Who is groaning and moaning along with the first female, pushing and pressing against one another. "Girls, why you?" Naruto tried to ask a question, but his voice and face suddenly gets muffled and stuff into another set of breasts. Feeling his body being pushed down as the girls, down below his pelvis, were picking up in volume as they began moaning and panting heavily, to even feeling what could be tongues tapping against his tip. Now Alpha, you enjoy our lovely treatment while we make you feel good," announced the third voice. Feeling them pushing and grinding against his chest and abs with their lower body, while forcing his head to get shoved between their large mounds. "After all, we want to make you feel good and make you happy. You're our alpha and we're your mates." Naruto, who was moving and thrashing about on his bed, felt what will be another presence in his dream. Who this time was behind his head and joined with a girl. By adding and squishing their own breasts against theirs, while the two down below were sliding and moving their tongue all around his lower half, with their own boobs and nipples pressing and flicking against one another. "Yeah, let us bring you happiness." Of course the dream suddenly ended abruptly, causing him to shoot out from his bed and rolling onto the floor of his room. Hearing what sounded like pounding or punching against his walls and doors, angry shouts and yells coming from the other tenants of the apartment complex. Groaning and feeling his ears twitching from all the noise and impact, he opened up one eye in annoyance. "Shut the hell up, demon brat. We're trying to sleep here. We don't need to hear your demonic chants in the middle of the night. What kind of hot dreams were you having?" "Picoro." The other three voices shouted in unison, shutting up the fourth tenant and closet pervert from asking the demon brat of what it was he was dreaming about. Making Naruto to deadpan at his eastern wall and shook his head, then stretching his arms out yawning. "Ugh, much I don't need this crapper treatment," then huffed some air into his hair. Watching the blonde bangs droop down and covering his eyes a bit, only to spike upward when he comb a hand through them. "I am kind of glad they woke me up from it," groaned the boy and looks over to his desk clock, noticing the time was nearing 7 a.m. Having the boy stare at it for a bit and then grins. "Well, no loss in sleeping, they woke me up in time for breakfast," he announced while walking about and began grabbing some new pair of clothing, some blunt kunais in case that when he goes to the Hyuga compound. With Hinata or possibly Sakura or Niji, if he is there, asks if he wanted to train. Would be prepare himself for that moment in time as he goes rushing towards the restroom in order to wash up, get clean and head on out to hopefully Ichiriku's ramen shop. Right before he went toward his door to leave, he paused in his step and turned towards one of his dresser. Taking note of the Uzumaki scroll of ceiling box. Shining lightly from the bright morning sunlight hitting against the box. Contemplating if he should bring it with him today or possibly bring it to the Hyuga household. Ask Hiashi Hinata's father if he could take a look at it and see if he can determine if it actually belonged to Uzumaki's and that it truly is the real deal, while not being like a copy of said scroll. Which isn't too bad, if someone did copy the scroll, then he will have to thank them for doing so. "Nah, I think we'll leave it here for the day." Then pauses again when he closed his eyes and thought about the caretaker of the apartment complex. Entering his room and possibly stealing the box. Then smiled happily with his ears twitching from pounding against an open palm. Then walks on over towards the box and chuckle with a wide grin. "Naruto, why you never thought of doing this? Is beyond me," he stated as he walks over to his secret stash of items and possessions. But he keeps hidden within the floorboards of his room, moving over near one of the carpeted floors by the TV stand. Lifts up the edge of the rug and rolls it backwards, revealing a secret latch with a rope-like hook. He goes and opens it up and grins at the treasures he found as a young child. That were covered in lots of dust. Some say it is junk, but to me it is treasure. He snicker and he is right, most if not all the items in it were toys, knickknacks, some festivities memorial masks and even toy hammer drums. Shuffling about and moving the items within his secret stash. All the while being sure to grab a washcloth to clean one spot, then began placing the Uzumaki box down into the hidden stash. Being sure that it would fit and not cause the lid of the compartment loose and beamed happily to see it didn't. But that out of the way and his family heirlooms secretly stored away. He happily claps his hands up and down before placing the rug back and had it look like before. There we go, he beamed beepily, though grimaced lightly and felt his ears flattening against his head. While scratching his cheek. Maybe I should probably ask someone or one of the senseis of where I should place this box. In a more secure place. Then rapidly shook his head and smiled, we'll worry about it later. I made a promise to Hinata that I will come to her house. So first, Ichiraku ramen shop, here I come. He shouted and began running on out the door, grabbing the keys and locking his apartment room tight. Heading out to the village, Naruto finally remembers why it is he never likes heading out early in the morning of the residential area. The glares, he completely forgotten what they were like. On the account Team 7 were always on missions or doing D-rank chores that he never had a chance to head back to his apartment during the daytime or evenings. Only around nighttime is when he gets back home and sleeps before waking up again the next day to go and start missions all over again. He was just casually walking down the road whistling to himself in a happy tone. Ignoring some of the sneers and glares he was receiving, but there were also a mixture of confusing looks and expressions on some of the villagers' face. Which no doubt he figured were directed right towards the twitching fox ears on his head, having the boy to sheepishly grin. Yeah, my reaction was the same, especially when reading up that odd jutsu. Apparently these are permanent. No amount of transformation jutsu will make them go away. Thought Naruto as he continued walking, then yelping when couple of children ran past him and having him spin about during their little game of chase. Then running off, only for a young girl to stop in her steps and turn her attention to the light dizzy boy. Having Naruto to shake his head and blink his eyes at the young girl, who grinned widely and points at his head. Kitsune. Are you a kitsune boy? She playfully asked, making Naruto to lower one eyebrow and raise the other. Before letting out a oh and snicker, nah, I am not a kitsune. But the fox ears does make me look like it, huh? He joked, making the girl laugh and nodding her head cutely. Then approaching him, having some of the haters on edge and afraid the girl might get attacked. Is it alright to touch them? Are they real and can you really hear everything? I heard animals have great sense of hearing. The girl bombarded Naruto with so much cute questions that he was having a hard time getting said answers out. Then raised his hands up in a stop motion, getting the girl to pause and then bashfully apologize. No need to apologize to your first question though. You can touch them if you want, just don't squeeze them, okay? Naruto said and couldn't help but laugh when she nodded her head hard, then goes on her tiptoes to reach said ears and gently caresses them with her hands. Then laughing when she saw the relaxed expression Naruto had when she rubbed his ears. Then moves herself away with a grin, thank you Kitsune. See ya. She quickly said and waved him off before running off to catch up with her friends, making Naruto, who stood up to wave back at her and couldn't stop his smile from breaking his face. Though sweat dropped when she called him Kitsune again, making the boy to shake his head. Oh well, at least not everyone is following the herd of haters. Mutter Naruto and then deadpan when one of the adults shouted out he wished. Making Naruto to shake his head while ducking swiftly from a stick being thrown at him from one of the houses, which had him looking at them. Making the slightly older kids who were at the doorway to flinched before closing the door swiftly. Then peeking their heads around the window, yeah that's what I thought. Naruto stated coldly before shrugging. Oh well, not going to bring me down. Boast the boy and continued his way down the road and heading straight for Ichiraku ramen shop. Ignoring some of the glares and stares, along with some of the hateful words and death threats leading his way. Never understanding what he did to them, but it is always the same, especially when not even walking by them or being anywhere close to them. That they will threaten to kill him on the spot if he ever thinks about getting close to their homes or business. After a while and making his way to the main street of Konohara shopping district. He happily sniffed in the aroma of ramen floating in the air, leading him in the direction of his favorite restaurant. Though before he could move forward or get close, at the same time letting his body go on autopilot. He bumped into someone and staggered backwards before shaking his head and looking to see who it was. Sorry about that, I didn't mean. Then looks up, Kakashi sensei. Which the man I smiled and raised his hands. Yo, Naruto. I see you're still in high spirits, everything worked out alright with you and the girls yesterday? He asked and then chuckled. Also, sorry about interrupting any training sessions you and the girls were having. I honestly didn't expect you to get Hinata and Sakura involved with your training. Kakashi said with honesty, to be perfectly honest. He was looking for him and Sakura when he got done secretly training Sasuke for the exams. Wanting to help them with their chakra control exercise and possibly stamina. Knowing well that Sakura out of all of the new rookies doesn't have the best stamina out there, being second to Ino. Naruto grins and shook his head, no problem Kakashi sensei. Though, then crosses his arms and closed his eyes in slight irritation. I do wish that you would stop training Sasuke and help me or Sakura with our own training. This had Kakashi looking away bashfully before opening his one eye wide in confusion, staring towards what appears to be orange fox ears on Naruto. Making Kakashi to tilt his head ever slightly, then raises his hand up with a pointed finger. Naruto, I know in the past you like pulling pranks and whatnot. Is the Fox Hears any plans for probably a future prank? This had Naruto blinking his eyes and then snicker, oh no, no pranks Kakashi-sensei. Even if I did use Fox Ears for a prank, it would have to be very elaborate one to pull off. He informed and then heard Kakashi hum, then once again point at the ears, hoping to get some sort of confirmation of why they're there. Which Naruto look away sheepishly and grimace, considering sensei did behave oddly about the bubble bomb jutsu. He might know about Uzumaki's in the past, then shift his eyes towards the man, who raised a brow and gave a caring look. I get it now, has something to do with whatever scroll he was reading for the bubble bomb jutsu. And if my hunch is correct or my feeling of thinking it might be that sealing scroll. Kakashi thought to himself and move a hand away. How about we discuss this over ramen, I think be better to talk there about what's happening. I smiled and got Naruto to beam brightly and nods. Sizzling of ramen being cooked and made could be heard behind the paper flaps of the shop. Utensils moving and clacking about within the restaurant, with Tucci and AM working diligently at making sure the food is being done right while writing and taking down orders on notepads. Naruto and Kakashi, who was sitting on the stools and in front of the counter, were speaking to one another about what has been going on. About the Fox Ears and what happened back at the Land of Waves as Naruto informed and like the girls, suspicious curiosity that the man knew about the Uzumaki scroll and told him how he discovered it. That is quite the tale and fits perfectly in the timeline of your disappearance. Kakashi mused out while rubbing his chin. Then chuckle, well you're definitely unpredictable Naruto. Informed the man, while thanking AM for the bowls which he smiled happily. Then turned towards Naruto, oh Naruto. Which got him to look up in the middle of slurping his ramen. When did you start wearing fox ears? Then giggled as she reaches over and pets them, they're very cute. Making Naruto to become bashful and slurps up the rest of the ramen. Ah, it has something to do with the scroll he informed lightly. Making Kakashi nod to confirm Naruto's story, hearing how Tucci and the waitress helped out Naruto, learning how to make the bubble bomb jutsu. Also AM, Tucci thanks again for the awesome tip for that jutsu. I was able to form the bubble, while Hinata and Sakura helped me out mastering it. Tucci gave a boastful laugh and tilt his head sideways, great to hear Naruto. Glad AM and I could be of service. And focus back on the food he was cooking, having Kakashi to just enjoy the ramen, making sure that none of his face gets revealed from the mask. Enjoying how friendly the two of them are to the boy, glad to seeing more people not being blinded or swaying on the kill the demon kid train. Hey Kakashi-sensei. Naruto's sudden loud voice rang out and alerted the man to him. Then saw him clapping his hands together with a pleading look. Think after I am done visiting Hinata's house, you could probably come and train me in one of the scrolls jutsu. Or maybe even help train Sakura and I, since you've been training Sasuke a lot. This made Kakashi to look down at the counter with a sigh. Sorry I can't. He suddenly said, while laughing from Naruto whining and getting bit annoyed of him and the girl being left behind. Honestly, I want to, but there are things I can only teach Sasuke right now. That might be way too advanced for you and Sakura. He always hated making that excuse, no the things he wanted to teach Naruto and Sakura were not advanced at all. Hell. The two teens could probably even master it within 2 days for Naruto, while 3 hours for Sakura on the account. Her amazing chakra control will make it easy for the girl to master this jutsu, but probably use up lot of chakra. Why not and don't say it's because Sasuke can master your techniques. Naruto argued out while thrusting an accused finger. Only to then blink his eyes when then sensei hums and look up in thought, making the boy to get a serious look, yeah he is going to bring that card up alright. Actually thinking about it. I don't know what kind of element nature you and Sakura have, and considering I don't have the money for those papers. I can't really check. The man suddenly said and got a curious and interest expression from Naruto, wondering what is element nature and why piece of paper will have him know. Naruto, he suddenly turned to him and saw him become rigid. That jutsu you used against Sasuke's fireball jutsu. Besides the controlling problem, were you struggling to extract the water? Oh. Naruto then look up in thought as his ears twitch. Now you mention it, despite Sakura and Hinata helping me figure out the amount of chakra I needed for the jutsu. I still struggle a bit on extracting the water though at the same time not. Why? He asked curiously and then saw Kakashi eye smile. Well I may not be able to help train you and Sakura as I am busy with Sasuke. All the while trying to put some sensibility into that boy. When he got this bad with that pride of his, I don't know. But no doubt he is starting to lose his cool when he noticed Naruto's growth rapidly reaching him. He said and thought at the same time, before opening his eyes. But I think know someone who could help with that scroll of yours. What? Really who? Naruto asked while slamming his hands against a stool and leans forward. Before flattening his ears and quickly asks think be alright showing them the scroll. I mean, I haven't show you the scroll to confirm it. Kakashi happily laughs and raises his hands up in a "you can trust me" fashion. No worries, I have a good hunch that scroll you have belongs to them. But the reason I am suggesting her to you is because she excel in the same elements the scroll have. He stated and had Naruto raising an curious brow, but the smile never left his face. Making Kakashi to place a hand onto his student's head. In fact, why not bring Sakura along with you too? Sure, she may not be an official sensei. On the account there wasn't enough students to have an 11th sensei. Then raises his hand away and pointed upward. But I do know she enjoys teaching and training Ino whenever she visits and her stepdaughter Haku. Mia Naruto then pause and leans back. Wait, Mia-sensei isn't a sensei, he shouted in surprise and had Kakashi open his eyes wide and then crossed his arms. What, I thought you and everyone else knew that she wasn't. To which Naruto shook his head no and began explaining how he, Hinata and Ino all thought she was a sensei. Because of her teaching and training not only Haku but Ino as well whenever she separates from Team Asuna. Making Kakashi to openly laugh and ruffle Naruto's hair, yup, she isn't a sensei, but she is still a good teacher. Then stood up from the stool and opened the paper flaps. Anyway, Mia Hyuga will no doubt be a great teacher for those elements Naruto. And no doubt, and laughs. With her being overly prepared, she might also have those chakra papers. So when you get the chance, bring your scroll with you, Sakura and maybe Hinata as well to Mia. Hey sensei. Naruto openly said softly, making the man stop from leaving. Looking at the confusion in Naruto's face, this might sound weird, but why are you highly suggesting her over any others? I thought you and her have this hate-like relationship. This had Kakashi snickering, we don't get along yes, because our differences of how we treat others in genin. But when it comes to training or helping people out Naruto. I will always reference her to anyone who wants to learn about wind jutsu or water jutsu. Then waves a two-finger salute. Jana, also better get going. Don't want to keep Hinata from waiting don't you? Laughed the man and left the shop while also leaving the bill for Naruto to pay. Making the boy to hum lightly and then nearly screamed out, shit. You're right I almost forgot. Then whip his head at the wall clock. When did it become 11 a.m.? He then began scrambling about and rapidly finishing up his ramen and drink before slamming the cup down and placing the money on the counter. Thanking for the food and making a mad dash towards the clan district of Konoha. Kakashi who was on a nearby rooftop couldn't help but chuckle and shake his head. Before looking towards the Hokage tower and humming lightly, then back to Naruto. Why can't you train Sakura and I? Whenever you're not busy training Sasuke. Were Naruto's words when he discovered the sensei having free time to eat and chat with him. I think it's high time I figure things out and see if Hokage ordered me or not just to train Sasuke, he hummed to himself while standing up and glaring down at the road. Finding something very fish about this whole arrangement on the team. Yes, it was Sasuke, Naruto and Sakura. But after leaving the office and wanting to scout out these three genins, he found additional notes that look identical towards Hiruzen's own handwriting. You can do whatever you want with Naruto and Sakura. But I'd agree that you focus your tasks on Sasuke Uchiha because of him being last remaining of the Uchiha clan. No doubt there will be those wanting to hunt him down and steal the Sharingan eyes at its purest form. It was bit suspicious of how it was written and demanding that Kakashi focus solely on the Uchiha. I understand forming a three-man team with the sensei. But why having me focus on Sasuke it just doesn't add up. Then hardened his look and began leaping on the roofs. Heading straight for the Hokage tower, time to get to the bottom of this and get the truth from Lord Hokage himself. He stated and made his way to his destination while Naruto was making his way to the Hyuga compound. Sakura, you made it. Hinata beamed happily while waving her arms up into the air. Waiting just outside the gates of the Hyuga clan household. Smiling happily and wearing casuals today, long-sleeved black shirt with matching pants. Sakura, who was about 5 minutes away, waved happily towards the heiress, also wearing casuals today, wearing a nice comfortable looking light pink top that reaches above her belly button. With comfortable long-sleeve silky pants. Yup, I went and stopped by to see if Ino was at the shop. Sakura informed while stepping in front of the girl and brought her into a friendly hug. Making Hinata to laugh when they pulled away, smiling to the girl who grinned. Thankfully she was and did some catch up with her. You two didn't argue or get into a heated discussion did you? Hinata asked worriedly, then raised her hand up to her mouth. When Sakura feigned ignorance and looked away with a, you could say that expression. Oh Sakura, but it must have felt nice seeing her again. Smiled the girl. Hey up. She looks really healthy and quite strong, probably thanks to Asuma and Mia sensei. Giggled the girl and brought up a basket. Also, I brought some snacks with me. In case we get hungry later after lunch. Informed the girl, while then turning her head. Which brings up the question, she then began scanning the roads lightly and passed the Hyuga guards. Swearing one of them immediately shift their eyes away from the two. When she looked at their direction, then back to the open road. "I don't see Naruto anywhere." Then groaned and placed a hand on her hip. He better not pull off a Kakashi and make an excuse of why he is late. Making Hinata to hum curiously of why the boy would try to make an excuse. Then got her answer when Sakura looked at her with a downright depressed mood. "Sensei made us wait nearly 3 hours at the academy classroom, only to finally showing up at the 3rd hour mark. While getting hit on the head by Naruto's eraser on the door prank." This had Hinata just blink openly at the girl and then thought she heard snorting behind her. But when she turned and see where it came from. Nothing. Not even the Hyuga guards looked to have moved at all, then face back forward. Did he really? "Hey Sakura, Hinata's sorry that I am late." Came the voice of Naruto Uzumaki, who was rushing his way over. Looking to be quite out of breath but at the same time happy, wondering if something happened his way here. Panting and breathing lightly while hanging on his knee. "Man, last time I stick around and chat with Kakashi sensei woo," then leans all the way back. Betting Sakura and Hinata to blink their eyes and then to each other. "You found Sensei Naruto?" Sakura asked and steps forward with hope in her eyes. "Please tell me you scolded him for only training Sasuke these past few days." She asked, then hang her head down and groan. Happy at first when he said he did, but then hang in defeat when the next thing he said. About how Kakashi is still going to be training with Sasuke. Making Naruto to sigh lightly. "Honestly, I didn't understand it at first. But the way his tone was and the emotion I got out from him. Is he really does want to train us, but seems obligated to only training Sasuke." He stated and had Hinata humming in thought. Even getting Sakura to blink her eyes confusingly before rising up and place a finger on her chin. "That's odd." Then grinned happily while slapping her arms against her sides. "Oh well, long we know he actually does care for us and want to train. Then guess it's alright, though not alright at the same time." Then paused when Naruto suddenly grinned. "However, he did suggest we go and ask Miya sensei to train us, highly suggesting her for us. In case we seriously wanted to train while learning about elemental jutsu." He beamed and had Sakura repeating the words elemental jutsu. "Wait, you mean you're right?" She teased, though was surprised when he shook his head no. "Not just me, but you and even Hinata-chan. He says that Miya is serious when it comes to training, that he believes she will gladly help us out whenever we have free time on our hands or possibly wanting to join in with Haku and Ino." He grinned, having the two girls having blushes on their face. At the excitement the boy was giving out and even looking to be grateful to having them with him. "Oh, should we move this topic to the house?" Hinata suddenly said and giggled. "Almost forgot the point of the two of you coming from being distracted with this conversation." She asked and smiled when the two nod and gave a thumbs up. Taking note Naruto wearing his orange jumpsuit, then tilt her head silently asking if Naruto has any casual clothes. Then smiled when he nods. "No worries Hinata, I will take the jacket off once we're inside." He beamed and went ahead of the two girls when the doors opened up for them and welcoming them into the gardens. Making Sakura and Naruto to smile brightly and becoming awe at the beautiful scenery. The furbish looking lake near the west side wall, having a small river flow leading towards the middle of a small bridge. Continuing on towards the east wall, with what seems to be a small waterfall connecting towards the outside river side. With koi looking fish here and there swimming about, while some striped ones hops out of the water and back in. Some flowers lined up on the outer sides of the walkway leading to the house. Which after going past a bridge or stones and what looked to be raked dirt that was carefully combed and patterned neatly, as the two teens couldn't help but look and examine everything around them, getting Hinata to blush lightly at their expressions before Sakura saw the flowers and grinned to Hinata. "Did you plant those flowers, Hinata?" asked a pink-hair ninja, getting the girl to squeak out and bashfully tapped her fingers together, then becoming red in the face when Naruto turned his head and smiled at her and even complimented. "If so, they're beautiful Hinata-chan, you have amazing taste." Then yelled playfully when Sakura punched his shoulder in a playful way. Especially when Hinata's eyes were wide and appreciated and smoke began coming out from her ears. What? Naruto joked out and then blinked his eyes when Sakura grinned. "Complimenting Hinata like that will cause her to faint." Sakura teased and nudged her head at the girl. Having quite the teasing expression on her face, no doubt Hinata-chan liked being complimented like that. Teased Sakura, just laughing at how Hinata is being not fazed by her words and continued following the two towards the door, before suddenly recalling and remembering something. "Oh wait Naruto-kun, before you open the door there's something I need." It was too late, right as he grabbed onto the handle and slides the door open, while turning to face Hinata. He whipped his head forward from the sound of a young girl shouting and calling out, "Ni-chan," and came flying out from the foyer and straight into Naruto, who quickly got his balance and slides backwards on the porch a bit. With his hands on instinct wrapping around the young girl, who looked to be 13. Long flowing brown hair, rubbing herself against him and pressing her body tightly on him as he can feel the girl's surprisingly moderate breasts pushing against him. Though that was more of an afterthought on the account he was confused of why this girl flew out like that and glumped him and rubbing her face into his chest. Two then watched her freeze in place and opened her pale lavender eyes like Hinata's confusingly at first while softly saying. Wait, since when Ni-chan flat-chested, let alone having bit of muscle around the chest? She openly stated, getting Hinata to blush embarrassingly from young Hanabi, mentioning of her breasts. While Sakura is doing everything to keep her laughter in and spitting from her hands covering her mouth. Watching the confused Naruto stare down at her with his own light blush and chuckle. Well, that's because I am not your Ni-chan. Snicker Naruto, watching the young girl shiver from the voice and began slowly raising her head upward. Hi, you must be Hanabi-chan, Hinata-chan's younger sister. Then watch the girl face turn bright red and literally jumps away from him and began bowing rapidly in apology. Sorry, so sorry. I didn't mean to jump at you like that. She exclaimed and held her head down with shaking eyes. It's sort of a game I play with Ni-chan whenever she comes home. On the account she is always busy with missions and with her team. I am so sorry. Man, never she has been this embarrassed in life. Let alone, she was actually rubbing herself against a boy. Thus adding more heat to her face at the realization of what she did, afraid the boy and pink hair girl will think she is a pervert now. Sorry. She continued and shut her eyes tight. I am prepared for any scolding or punishment. This had the three teens blinking their eyes at Hanabi, watching sweat rapidly going down her forehead. Looking really embarrassed and worried of upsetting or making Naruto feel embarrassed about the girl jumping at him like that, Hinata, who was about to speak, only to pause and turn her attention at Naruto, who hummed lightly and crosses his arms, having Sakura hard in her eyes. Naruto. You're not seriously going to punish her, are you? It was an accident. Sakura exclaimed while ready to pound some sense at him. But then saw him grinning and relaxed, realizing the punishment he is about to give Hanabi wasn't the harsh kind but one she knows all too well if she knows how he was back at the academy. Alright then, Hanabi, he began saying, watching Hanabi squeaking and closing her eyes tightly, even gulping. Your punishment shall be then, sensed the boy stepping closer to her and near her personal space. Having her shake and tremble of what it is she is about to get, then feeling his hands resting down to her sides. Getting the girl to shiver and fighting back sharp gasp of air. Tickles. Which had her eyes bulging out wide and began flailing about and laughing loudly. Unable to keep herself under control from the tickling Naruto was giving her, feeling his fingers dance and wiggle about her sides. Stop, stoop. Nuo. I am ticklish. Screamed the girl while having tears appearing on her eyes. Throwing and thrashing about as Naruto moves and spins around the girl's body, moving his wiggling fingers up and down her sides, enjoying the pure laughter the girl was having. Her arms throwing up and down, trying so hard to get a grip at him, but began falling to the floor and thrashing even more. Hinata couldn't help but laugh at her sister's plight, with Sakura laughing lightly. Alright, Naruto thinks she had enough. Sakura stated and watched the boy stopping, having that smile still on his face as he looked at her and removed his hands from the girl. Crouching next to the down Hanabi, who was breathing and huffing heavily, don't want her passing out from lack of air, right? Come on, Sakura then snicker as she lifts Naruto up from the floor. Then began dragging him inside as he yelps and grunts out, trying to keep his footing. But failing to break free. Hinata also entered into the entrance before taking her slippers off and then looked down at her sister happily. Sorry about that, Hanabi, I should have warned you we were having visitors. She informed and watched the girl, who was red in the face, looking quite content from the sudden tickle attack. Her sleeveless shirt is ruffled up and lifted just enough to expose her stomach and lower abs, her hair a mess and had bangs hovering around her forehead. But you're welcome to join us, I am giving Naruto and Sakura a tour. So when you're ready, just join. Smiled Hinata as she bends down, grabs Hanabi's arm and helped her sister up. Who tried breathlessly respond back but just smiled. When she felt Hinata placing a hand on her head and rubbing it. But do be on your best behavior if you do, okay? And then goes after the blonde and pink hair Kunoichi. Hanabi, watching her sister's back and approaching the two. Blushed brightly when Naruto waved goodbye at her and follows her sister for the tour. The young sister, who was breathing and calming down from the tickle attack, looked down lightly and stared vacantly at the floor. Nobody tickled me like that before, let alone even approach close to me. Except for Hinata. Honestly, her father and guardians whenever she heads out into the village. Never let anyone get close to her or even be around her personal space. But this Naruto person. This boy that seems to be the crush of her Ni-chan had no problems walking into her personal space and place his hands onto her body like that. Hell, even raising her shirt up just enough to slip through it and touch her bare skin, ribs and underarms to tickle her. It sent another pleasing chill down her spine and shook, making her shake her head and grins. Best behavior, huh? Sure, I will, sister. She grinned and giggled happily as she goes and runs to her room. by going in the opposite direction of the group, grinning brightly and happily running, but nobody surprises Hanabi like that. Prepare to be defeated, Naruto, for I will get back at you for tickling me. Then opens a slider door and enters inside of it. First thing first, gotta wear special clothes for this occasion. He may have surprised me with my sparring clothes, but once in my casual wear. No way I'll be ticklish. She thought to herself and opened up one of her drawers, smiling for a bit, then deadpan. Seeing most if not lots of her clothes were either formal wear, kimonos or yukata clothing for festive days. While the other half of her drawers were just training gear. And I don't have any casual wear, which she clicked her tongue and kicks the drawer lightly. Damn it, if the stupid Hyuga council wasn't constantly interfering with our lifestyle. Or deeming me better as head of the clan, I would have gotten more casual wear. Then turns around and leans against the drawer. While closing her eyes in a mocking way, but Nuo Hanabi Haim has to be formal, Hanabi has to make standards as the future heir. Then did a fake spit noise while shaking her head. Then crosses her arms underneath her double C-cup breasts. Lifting them upward a bit and then places a hand against her chin. Hearing the loud voice of Naruto ringing out in the halls, sounding very easily excited about the things her Nichan was showing. Before sighing, come on, think Hanabi, think what would be good for casual wear. Then widen her eyes and snap her fingers. Of course. Then quickly turns back to her drawers and closes most of them, except for the one used for training and working out. Giving off a fang-like smile and playful expression, these are considered casual wear and used for workouts. No way he will dare tickle me again if I wear these. Snickered the girl as she was staring at sports-like clothing, ones she used to wear whenever she goes working on her gentle fist style or whenever she and Hinata does mock fights. If there is one thing she will say that may be embarrassing. Now the question is if they will fit and not be revealing. Stutter the girl as she move her shaky hands down and grabs them before shaking her head and renew her courage. Bah. Payback is more important than looks, get ready, Naruto. There's a reason why I am considered a tickle monster here in the Hyuga house. Giggled the girl and went ahead to get change while prepping herself for her comeback. Oh? Both Hinata and Sakura said at the same time, they're permanent. They asked while staring up at his fox-like ears, which twitch and folded back against his head. Making the two girls silently say cute to themselves, watching the boy nod his head and lightly lean on the island counter of the kitchen. Yeah, it seems like after using whatever beast absorption jutsu was in order to awaken. Then pull his hands away to do air quotes. Jinchuriki's full potential, it seems like the effects or whatever is happening. Prevents even my transformation jutsu from hiding the fox ears. He informed and plopped his face against the countertop. The two girls look at one another and then back at the boy. With Sakura peeking up, guess it is awaken whatever properties the jutsu had from the last user. Transferring it over to you, then snicker. And probably had a thing for foxes. Giggled the girl, making Naruto to look at her with a deadpan expression. Still Naruto-kun, Hinata began speaking next while tapping her fingers. They do compliment you greatly, especially with your whisker marks. Informed Hinata and smiled happily at the boy. Hoping to lift his spirits from that, which seemed to work as he sighs and bashfully grins. I guess, but man, will it be annoying having to explain this all the time. Informed the boy, getting Sakura to hum in agreement. By the way, Sakura, what did you bring for snacks? Snicker Naruto while rubbing his hands together. Be cool to see what you brought. Glad you ask. Beamed the pink hair girl as she goes and places the basket onto the countertop. I had asked my mom for some advice for what will be good to bring for snacks. Besides bananas, apples and grapes. She began saying while opening up the basket, getting Naruto and Hinata to lean over to check it out. But I brought some chips, sandwiches and even can of drinks to enjoy. Then smirked proudly with a hand against her side. Looking to Hinata, which I hope that's alright with you, Hinata, as I don't know what kind of food you have prepared for us. The heiress nodded her head and happily clasped her hands together, not a problem at all. I am actually waiting for the rice bowls I am cooking to be done too. Then they all turned and heard a ding. Speaking of which. Naruto-kun, think you could help me get some bowls? Hinata asked while heading over to the rice steamer. Yosh. Naruto saluted, which had Sakura laughing, watching him head on over towards one of the large cabinets Hinata directed. Here? He asked, wanting to be sure, resting his hands onto the knobs. His ear twitching and could have sworn he heard what sounded like snickering coming from the cabinet. Hearing a yes from Hinata and being bit wary of what he heard. Naruto decided to step to the left side of the cabinet, having Sakura raise an eyebrow out of confusion and watched him place a hand on the knob. Then it burst open with a girl shouting, "Tickle attack." Then grunts out when she leaped forward. She hit the island countertop and slid across it, with Sakura swiftly grabbing all the snacks she could from the basket, then watch it go flying off with the younger sibling. Who let out a yelp and then an oomph when she collided against the floor and hits the wall. Separating the kitchen to the dining room. her lower body sliding up the wall and then placing her legs between her head and shoulder, followed by the basket rolling off her stomach. Opening her eyes in slight daze, before her world stopped spinning and puffed her cheeks out when Naruto began laughing. "Nice try, firecracker. Gotta do better than that to get the jump on me," smirked Naruto, though grunts when he got an empty plastic cup bop his head from Sakura. Calling him an idiot on the account they don't know if Hanabi got hurt. Technically, if she didn't jump out like that or even hid in the cabinet, she wouldn't gotten hurt to first place weight. Why, which had all three with Sakura, who said sorry. Even though Naruto shouldn't laugh at Hanabi if she did got hurt or not. Which had Naruto sheepishly rubbing his neck. All looked towards Hanabi, curious why she was in the cabinet. Hanabi though after being looked at and recovering from her surprised attack. Thrust her arm out and towards Naruto that was just a warning shot. She shouted and then grinned before dropping down a smoke bomb. Causing all three teens to choke and cough badly from the sudden smoke erupting, with Hanabi darting off to plan a better approach while getting scolded by Hinata. "Hanabi, you know you're not allowed to use smoke bombs in the house," screamed the older girl while fanning the smoke away while thanking Sakura opening up the window. Before groaning lightly and face palm, I swear asked politely for her to behave. Sighed Hinata as she goes and gets the rice. But Sakura, who began placing the snacks onto the table, began laughing a bit openly when Naruto stood bit dumbfounded and scratched his fox ear lightly. Was Hanabi wearing sportswear just now? Then shrugs. Talk about weird, but guess whatever feels comfortable. And helps out placing the bowls out for their lunch. Okay, Operation Tickle attack at the kitchen didn't work. Hanabi thought while peeking her head around a corner after few minutes of the group eating and finishing their lunch. With Hanabi having lunch as well, rice balls and a banana. The girl was blushing at the cute side of Naruto's fox ears that seemed to respond whenever he expresses something. The group were heading down the living quarters of the compound. Where most if not her, Hinata's room and their father's studies, the girl was plotting in a way to throw Naruto off balance. In a way that she can get that surprise tickle attack plan of hers to succeed. "The ears will definitely alert him of my presence." Despite how cute they look on him, muttered the girl while leaning away from the corner and rest against the wall. Rubbing a hand against the tight sports bra of hers, adjusting it and pulling it down to fit better on her breasts. While gently pulling down the short so it wouldn't wedgie against her pelvis. "Now what will?" Then pauses and looks down at the banana peel after finishing it. Then smirk and leers openly towards the washroom near her and the end of the hall. "That's it, I can probably have him sliding off the peel and into the washroom. He will be dazed and that's my chance to catch him off guard." Hearing the voices getting closer and rounding the said corner. Hanabi immediately goes into action, peeking out a bit. In order to see if they were looking down the hall and seeing they weren't. She immediately jumps forward at the washroom door, opening it up wide enough for the boy to slide in. Then hides back to the corner to check the group. Hearing Naruto and Sakura complimenting at how spacious some of the rooms were. At the girl grinning brightly as she looks up to the ceiling, running over to it and leaps straight up at it. A secret hiding spot she and Hinata made when they were little. A spot they usually enter whenever they wanted to get away from all the responsibility, a hiding spot or secret base they made. Of course now it only support one, which was her as she adjusted some of the things around and lays flat against the ceiling board. Staring down at the hallway, grinning brightly. "Ayaku-gon." She whispered and activated her taijutsu in order to see who if they were getting close. In which she spotted the three, walking down the hallway once more. But before she could even drop the banana peel, she nearly let out a scream of pain from Naruto's bright and thick chakra reserves. Causing her to drop the banana peel down into the hall. Having her rolled left and right in the hiding spot, trying to rub out the stinging sensation from her eyes. Then felt the floor below her creaking, having her pause and blink her eyes confusingly. Before feeling her weight sinking and then yelps out. When the ceiling floorboard collapsed underneath her and had her crashing down into the hallway. Causing Naruto, Hinata and Sakura to jump back from the sudden ceiling falling down. Then with dotted eyes stared dubiously at what looked to be a coughing and hacking Hanabi. Who began standing up and rubbing the top of her head, groaning slightly and then froze in spot. Before turning her attention towards the group who just blinked their eyes at her. Hanabi said lightly before snickering lightly, "Not what you think." And quickly turns around and goes darting forward. Then she screamed out in surprise when her foot landed onto the peel and slides all the way ahead of everyone. Crashing and causing things to clatter and hit against the washroom floor, followed by sounds of a shower being turned on. This had the three flinching and twitching from the sounds, crashing in the washroom and ran on over to see if the girl was alright. "Hanabi-chan, you alright?" Hinata shouted as all three ran over and came to a stop. Noticing the girl was sitting against the wall. With one arm over on the sink, with the other hanging inside the bathtub. Groaning lightly and having the shower head ajar and splashing water straight down onto her head and body. causing the white sports bra she's wearing, becoming transparent and exposing her skin through the shirt, her supple double C cups hugging tightly against the now wet fabric, tenting lightly from her nipples getting erect from the cold water, with her tight pink shorts, were beginning to show her panties through them. Groaning and lifting her head up at the trio, glare a bit when Sakura and Naruto snicker lightly. With Naruto complimenting out, it was a good idea for a surprise attack. But when you screamed, you let yourself known. Nice try. Chuckled the boy and Sakura, doing her best not be rude, trying to be polite, but couldn't help but began laughing. Hinata, who heard this and looked at Hanabi, saw the girl looking away and grabs another smoke bomb. And used it before Hinata could stop her and engulf everyone once more in smoke. Causing Hinata to yell out, "Not again, Hanabi." As the young girl crawled her way out from the washroom and darted off to form another plan of attack. For crying out loud, what was that? Hanabi scolded herself and began pacing around in the outside halls, letting the warm sun to go and dry off her clothes. As her boobs bounce and wiggle about within the semi-wet dress, while she constantly tugs and pulls down her shorts. In order to keep them from rubbing roughly against her or pushing up on her panties and womanhood. Whatever that was that blinding me from using Byakugan definitely surprised me. I didn't think you could blind a Hyuga when they use their Dijutsu. Muttered the girl. Then slams against the doorway leading to her room, growling in irritation of what kind of technique Naruto use. In order to blind a Hyuga using Byakugan, then huffs in annoyance though as that's the second time he avoided her tickle attack, granted she kind of trap herself what's worse. Naruto not only saw the display of her sliding down the hall, but no doubt the boy got an amazing view of her double C cup breasts being wet and soaked through her shirt, while also probably her black panties through her pink shorts. Making the blush on her face intensify, then shivering in delight for odd reason about the idea of showing herself off for him. That was weird. But good, then sighs and taps a finger against her chest, feeling the sun drying up her clothes, though now they feel a bit tighter from being dry. Clothes probably shrunk a bit when they were drying. Let's see, how can I get him now? Making him slip on a banana peel didn't work. Surprise attacking him in a cabinet didn't work. She muttered to herself and scanned around the garden space of the household. Spotting a tree nearby one of the rooms that leads back to the foyer. She stared vacantly at it and then had a devil-like smile. Why did I not think about that? And giggle evil-like, she goes and skips her way towards the tree and began plotting. Then used Byakugan once more, but this time not focusing her sights on the boy. But where Hinata and Sakura are currently, considering they don't have some kind of technique that prevents her from seeing them. Hinata is showing them the library and training dojo right now. That will lead to the gardens. And then turn her Dijutsu off, then stare over towards the only tree in the gardens. Laughing darkly while rubbing her hands up and down, let's see you avoid this, Naruto. She cackled out and began prepping. With Hanabi setting up the trap and making sure it will work this time around. The trio began walking on out from the library and towards the dojo, Hinata and Sakura being couple steps away from Naruto. Laughing to themselves at how he is being quite amazed with everything the clan household has. Even running about in the dojo room. After they entered it and Hinata explained what it is used for, or where most if not all the Hyugas go for practicing their gentle fist style. Hinata, Sakura suddenly said with a quiet tone, alerting the girl to her and shift her gaze. Watching how the pink-hair Kunoichi emerald eyes were staring fondly towards the excited Naruto. I need to ask something bit personal and not sure how to explain it. She began saying. Having Hinata become bit worried and scared that she might be falling for Naruto, making the girl to hum and face forward. Figuring this would have happened, but did she not like Sasuke? Lately and not entirely sure why, but I have been feeling odd and weird ever since we came back from the land of waves. She continued speaking, that lately whenever I try thinking about someone else or I guess Sasuke. This is when Hinata deadpanned to herself, there it is, well Hinata, it was bound to happen. Though I'm glad she's being nicer to Naruto. She thought to herself, but then blinked her eyes widely and turned with a shock expression when Sakura raised a hand lightly up to her chest and bit her lower lip with content. I feel like that I shouldn't really keep my attention all on him anymore. She stated and turned to the girl with her hand still resting on her chest. To a point when we came back, I couldn't remember his name at first and just saw him as an uchiha. She explained, getting Hinata to lean back in surprised. Wait. Really, you only saw him just his clan name? Hinata asked while leaning a bit forward and raised one finger silently, not his actual name. Okay, she thought, that is strange, and she should probably pay attention and help Sakura out then. Watching the girl nod her head and then faces forward. Having her long hair bounce a bit, grabbing her other hand now. Yeah, it started right when we came home. I didn't understand it at first, but the more times I tried to think about it, the happier I felt of forgetting about Sasuke. Or at least, thinking of him in a way of having a crush. Hinata blinked her eyes and hums lightly, was she just? Maybe you're just getting out of your crush phase, Sakura. Everyone does go through with it until they know they are truly in love with someone or not. Like you are with Naruto, Sakura stated with her head looking down. Making Hinata to visibly shake, but then look at the girl. No worries, I know it is true love interest you have in Naruto. Your secret is safe, she said softly and bit hurting. Sakura, are you? Hinata softly said and then felt her world going silent when Sakura began having one teardrop falling. Sakura. Don't hate me please, she whimpered softly and covered her mouth, clenching her eyes tightly. Please Hinata, I don't want to lose another friend. Don't want you to hate me, she continued saying and earning great concerns from Hinata, feeling the girl moving a hand and gently resting on her shoulder. Feeling the Kunoichi twitch from the sudden touch. Looking silently towards the girl, who had a caring smile and for odd reason, felt her heart rising when she asked Sakura. You starting to fall in love for Naruto aren't you? She asked in a whisper. Then saw Sakura hiccuping lightly, doing her best not to alert Naruto, who apparently began doing some practice air punching and kicking to get a good feel of the dojo. Shifting her gaze at him with her eyes, then turned them back towards Hinata. Then closed them and nodded silently. I don't know why that is but I am worried and scared. She suddenly said and felt Hinata hand squeeze her shoulder lightly, not out of fear of her taking Naruto away from her or winning him before she does. But out of concern and Sakura's safety, scared that I will just make people mad. Mad? Mad for what, Sakura? Hinata asked confusingly. Why would she be mad? I don't, then leans back when Sakura turned completely at her and held onto her shoulders. Looking definitely scared of getting hated on. Sakura, are you worried of me being mad? Cause if so I don't think. I'm scared that I will take him away from you. She exclaimed softly, getting Hinata to wide her eyes even more. Then watch her close her eyes and breathed a bit heavily. For Kami's sake, the both of you, the two of you are cute together. Despite little interactions you have with one another when we were kids, but when you do hang out along with Haku and Ino. You two are like always in sync with one another, accepting each other flaws or even having bright smiles on your faces. Whenever you guys play or joke around with one another. Then shook her head. Smiling softly and happily to Hinata, especially when you told me how he tried rescuing you out of a misunderstanding. Then giggle when Hinata sniffled lightly and laugh cutely when she poked her nose, knew he truly did cared for you if he went out of his way helping you out. Trying to break you out of this household. Then shook her head. You can't tell me those times he was with you when we were little, he doesn't have a crush on you too. Then sniffed lightly and then pulls away, hugging herself. And now, then hiccup as Hinata's smile never left her face and just happily stare at Sakura. And now feels like I am going to take him away if I were to start loving him, that smile of his, the way he paid attention to me. That is when Hinata felt her heart lifting up. I don't know what it is, Hinata. But whenever Naruto smiles at me or looks towards me, I feel this sensation. Were Haku's words after running into her when she went out and looked for Naruto at the training grounds. The two had ran into one another after Naruto left early from his apartment. Asking the girl if she would know a good spot to train for a water-style jutsu. Did I see Naruto? Yup, and sorry to say Hinata, as I know you have your eyes for him. But I keep feeling this odd pleasing sensation when he spoke to me, paid attention to me, and that smile. Ooh, felt like want to melt. Is it the same like you? Those were the exact words Haku and Ino told me when they met up with Naruto after that mission. And the pleasing sensation. Sakura, do you feel amazing sensations whenever he smiles at you or praises you in a way or compliments you? Hinata suddenly asked, getting the Kunoichi to stare and hum confusingly before blushing red. Yeah, why? She asked and then grunt when Hinata brought her into a hug and began laughing softly. Getting Sakura to stare openly before lowering her brows. Okay, you're starting to scare me, Hinata. She said, while feeling the girl pulling away and look up at her blushing face, then saw Sakura eyes shaking. You're not alone, I do feel them and feel the same, but not only that. But Haku and Ino, after seeing them yesterday morning, had said the exact same thing. Giggle Hinata, having Sakura opening and closing her mouth like a fish, before then being asked something that definitely had everything make sense now. Sakura, does that sensation still happen whenever you think or look at Naruto? She asked, wanting to test it out and see if it was definitely true love the girl was experiencing or now realizing she has for Naruto. Seeing how Hinata wanted to be sure and decided to go along with it. Sakura went and faced at the now panting and breathing Naruto, who somehow had gone and summoned couple of clones to help him out. With them laughing and grinning like fools to one another, just laughing away at the good workout. That is when Hinata saw the blush growing greatly on Sakura's face, then came the shivering and the sharp gasp of the sensation going down her spine. Making the pink hair girl to widen her eyes and look at Hinata. Okay. Is all Hinata said and grinned, leaving a confused Sakura to repeat. Okay? She repeated and wanted to know what that means. Only for Hinata to nod and giggle at the confused girl. Yup, okay. Hinata said and snickered lightly as in truth. After hearing everyone's confession or confusion of their feelings for Naruto, she needed to think exactly how to go forward with this knowledge. Now knowing Sakura is feeling the same thing. She's having a gutsy feeling that things are going to be quite interesting with Naruto and herself. Then it is alright Sakura to have those feelings for him. She said, glad to seeing there will be more to be part of Naruto's life. He lived a lonely life and seeing how Ino, Haku and now Sakura wanted to be more part of his life, with Haku and Ino wanting to be part of Hinata's life as well. Then by all means she will allow it, though blushed brightly when Sakura silently looked and whispered out. I also want you to be there too. So this way, I won't hog him. Sakura said bashfully, guessing for Hinata and Sakura's words of saying, please be with Naruto to keep tabs on how much she's hogging him. Sort of way. That and be a good friend too, unaware the double meaning behind it. Though both girls blinked their eyes and heard Naruto shout out. Hi firecracker. He shouted with a bright smile popping his head from under the window. That Hanabi was peeking through, causing the girl to scream in fright and literally flailed backwards. Before letting out a louder scream when her foot steps onto her trap and flung her upside down and tied around her ankles. Causing her to bounce and swing wildly onto the tree branch the rope was tied to. Feeling her boobs slapping and hitting against her body and chin, with the spots bra revealing her under boobs and ready to fall down towards the ground below. Her shorts completely wedgie up into her womanhood, showing off the black panties inside of them, as they were still transparent from them still drying up. Her entire world going upside down as she just puffed her cheeks in annoyance, hearing footsteps making their way out from the building. Her arms dangling above her head and hair hanging down as well, with the girl one leg going outward as she huffed in annoyance. Watching the group walking out and spotting her in her latest trap. Hanabi-chan. Hinata was about to ask only to pause when the girl raised a hand to stop her. Then growled in annoyance and lightly thrust an open hand outward with a deep crimson blush. You win Naruto, she suddenly said. Making the boy to raise a brow, wondering why she was saying that. You bested me in my own game, you've proven you're quite aware and alerted about my presence. She said, feeling her body swinging forward and back, making Naruto and Sakura to sweat drop with both thinking the same thing. She's the one who messed up 3 times, they thought to themselves, and watched the girl opening her eyes and stared openly at the boy. Wondering why he wasn't approaching her or shaking hands with her. What are you going to deny my accepting defeat to you? Hanabi asked as she waited for the boy to say something, ignoring how ridiculous she looks right now. While no doubt being quite revealing in her predicament, she smiled when she watched him look to Hinata for any advice. Which the teen sighed, please just shake her hand so she will stop this game of hers. Along with throwing those smoke bombs. Informed Hinata. Wanting this charade over with and the game to stop, all she wanted was a peaceful tour day with the two and possibly getting some more training with Naruto and Sakura. Alright firecracker, if you're accepting defeat and stop this game of yours. Then okay. Naruto smiled and approaches the girl. Extending his hand outward and ready to shake on it, only for Hanabi eyes to gleam devilishly and smiled widely before she grabbed onto Naruto's wrist. Causing everyone to widen their eyes and watch the girl pull herself right up to the boy and shouts Tickle fight. Revenge, revenge. Screamed the girl and began wiggling and roaming her fingers all over the white t-shirt Naruto was wearing. Moving and pulling him closer to herself as she was letting out quite the victory laugh and squeal at succeeding in beating Naruto and trapping him into a tickle attack. Ahahaha, stop. Stop, please have mercy. Naruto shouted and flailed about, with Hanabi just increasing her laughter and saying never. Making Sakura and Hinata to stare at the sight before them. Then snorted with sucked-in lips and began openly laugh loudly while holding their stomachs and each other's shoulders at the bright beautiful smile Hanabi had on her face, looking to be quite happy at winning. The Ashi after returning from a council conference and entered the main entrance. Blinked his eyes and hummed at the sounds of multiple laughter, with Hanabi screaming. I am victorious. The Hanabi tickle monster strikes again. Followed by what sounded like Naruto squealing about and trying to break free from the girl's tickle attacks. The Ashi then smiled brightly and chuckled, only Naruto could bring the laughter out of Hanabi. He snickered and looked towards the Hyuga guards, who looked to be fighting back their own laughter. You can laugh, you know, don't need to hold back. He laughed even himself of how exciting the energy was here in the compound. Heck, he can even hear some distant laughter from other Hyuga workers and servants. Even spotting Niji, who had come out and greet the man. Had a smile on his face and look up at the uncle, who nods at him. Seems like you were right about me staying out of their way and things will work out fine. Then smirk with his own devil-like smile. Plus, it feels good for that buffoon Naruto, get the taste of Hanabi. Snickered the boy and guided the man inside. How did it go, Hiashi-sama? Which the man sighs and shook his head but continued smiling and laughing when Naruto turned the tables around and began tickling Hanabi back, with her own squeals and laughter now echoing throughout the household, then followed by Hinata and Sakura, who couldn't help but join. Same as ever, but this time it was a discussion about the Chunin exam, so yeah. I will let you know all about it tomorrow, for now. He then opened the door to his studies and smiled at the snickering Niji, who is doing his best not to listen all the laughter going on. Let's not ruin the mood, okay? Let everyone have their fun and let them be, now go on and spend time with your father. He grinned. No doubt all this fun energy. His Ashi will probably want to spend some of that with his son. Having Niji to nod lightly but having a suspicion of what the topic was discussed besides the exams. After the tour was over and everyone settling down from Hanabi's constant surprised attacks on Naruto. The sisters were now standing at the entrance, ready to say goodbye to Sakura and Naruto. Thanks for visiting you too, it was quite enjoyable. Hinata smiled brightly. Making Hanabi to grin brightly as well, having quite the blush. You kidding? Naruto and Sakura both said and then had everyone laugh at their timing. It was the best tour and visit I ever had in a long time. Naruto beamed while twitching his ears and looked to the red face Hanabi, especially with you Hanabi, who knew there was someone who enjoys tickle fights. He snickered. Making Hanabi to raise her head proudly, what you thought all Hyugas would be stuck up? Gives us some credit. She waved it off and snicker when Hinata whacked her head lightly, telling her to be nice. Then blink her eyes when Sakura leans forward and had a questioning gaze. Though why are you only in a sports bra and shorts? Don't you have anything to wear? She asked, ignoring the imagery of how exposed the girl was when she gotten the clothes wet. Or how the shirt almost fell off from her breasts and having them dangling for all to see. Though she was surprised about the choice of panties though even looked to be a thong. Oh, Hanabi then turned away and blushed crimson while laughing embarrassingly, getting Naruto and Hinata curious as well. Apparently I do not have any casual clothes to wear. Like you guys, only kimonos, yukatas and training gear for the gentle fist. Then grins. So, I decided to go with sports bra and shorts, since people do work out in them and jog in them in the open. Figure be good for casual wear. Betting everyone to let out an ah while nodding, and she ain't wrong. Though she couldn't help but raise a hand in a teasing matter, though did it turn you on Naruto-kun? She teased out, getting Hinata to scold her, with Sakura nearly tripping up at the playful tone of the girl. Only for Hanabi to deflate a bit when the boy tilted his head confusingly and then grinned. Why would that turn me on? They're just casual wear after all, shouldn't be embarrassed if it shows some skin. Chuckled the boy, completely missing the undertone Hanabi was going for. Which despite her ego deflating she was impressed, how it seemed like it did not bother him at all. Making her smile brightly, having the question seem like an innocent one. Lifting Hinata's worries thinking she was serious about it, alright then. But do have one question. Hanabi asked and watched Naruto look at her with blinking eyes, then saw her going into a pleading stance. Can you teach me how to get those fox ears? They're so cute, she pleaded and complimented, watching the boy to sigh in annoyance. But went and explained that he couldn't do that, explaining how it's sort of a clan secret. That had Hanabi blinking her eyes and stood upright before pouting and puffing her cheeks out. Whining out, no fair, earning some laughter from everyone and bid their farewells. Later that night after greeting and saying hello to their father, eating dinner and heading for bed. Hanabi, who had gone and began bathing. Resting her head at the edge of the tub and staring up at the ceiling, along with allowing the soap tickle and rub against her body, along with the water splashing lightly. The girl stared and stared, before smiling brightly with an eye smile. Recalling how good it felt being tickled today and having a blast with everyone today, especially seeing her Nihime smiling and having a blast like they used to in the past. Couldn't help but shiver and moan out from the pleasurable sensation going down her spine, rubbing and grinding her legs together. Naruto-kun, hush, she said softly, picturing that smiling and happy face of his. That relaxing presence he has about him and the fun nature. Had the girl blushing and feeling more and more of that odd pleasure sensation going down and up her body, to even feeling her lower body tingle and burn. I wonder, then giggled as she goes and began moving her hands against her body, reaching to one breast and down below, breathing lightly. Feeling her hormones acting up again, which she growled in frustration of how after hitting 13. Knowing it usually the age where teenager hormones act up, but unfortunate for her, they hit hard and fast for the girl. And no thanks with the Hyuga training and chakra exercise. Having quite the effect of her growth like Ni-chan, her body was growing in ways that the touches she felt from Naruto today made those hormones that she thought had under control, active again, and only had them like this when Hinata was around. Before she got into a ninja team, I wonder, she breathed out as she began groping at herself, but immediately pulled away and dunk under the water. Do stop herself and gasp out when pulling out, coughing and gagging lightly, before smiling happily and lovingly as she removed a strain of hair from her eyes. That showed interest and fondness when she said, if Hinata won't mind if I too will be interested in him. Then goes ahead and finishes up, hoping to have quite the interesting dream tonight of their visitor. Along with being more involved with Nihime and her friends tomorrow, in hopes that they won't be busy with training with the Chunin exams. unaware that Naruto, Hinata and Sakura are going to visit Mia and Haku tomorrow. To ask if they could help them get some training. The Chunin exams just 2 weeks away and things are beginning to heat up. Visitors from other nations are beginning to come and the council has begun discussing what will be at the event and what is to be occurred. All the while, Kakashi Hotaki is making his way over to Lord Hokage to discuss something fishy about the note, unaware that Mia will be there to ask questions of her own. What kind of things awaits for Naruto and his friends with the next step of training and the Chunin exams are ahead. Alright, now that stupid meeting is over with, it is time to get down to business. Sarutobi Hiruzen announced out to nobody in his office, sitting down on the large green-like chair that can turn whenever he leans a certain direction. Wood and yellow-like walls surrounding the office, with the previous 4 Kage's picture frames hanging right behind him, up on the walls. His white Kage robe slid lightly when he moved closer to his desk and reaches out over the marble top. Reaching for the piles of paper that had began piling up ever since the meeting began this morning. About what will be the decisions and preparation for the Chunin exams that will be arriving soon. Though when he began looking through the pile of paperwork, they were the same as usual. Let's banish Naruto into the woods. The Kage read out while moving the paper over to the side of his desk, dropping it into the paper shredder. Make bills for increase of taxes for demon kind. And once more the paper goes to the side and down the paper shredder. Make the demon give up his loyal possession. And again, find workaround of not letting Naruto work as a ninja. The man just shook his head and let that one into the shredder as well. You'd think with all the help he'd been giving them through D-rank missions, one would expect them to be at least thankful. Muttered the man as he blew out some smoke from his pipe. Humming lightly at some reports of the village outside from other ninjas, nodding and carefully reading it through. Then chuckling at some of the silly reports about habitat animals nearby, making some of their missions bit difficult. Asking or pleading there be a way to not disturb the animals when scouting the walls. No matter how good our ninjas are. Nature seems to always best us. I better write this down and let them know to use the walls and binoculars instead of disturbing the wildlife. Then shuddered at the thought of those sloth bears who are quite territorial and lethal when disturbed. Including when their babies fall off from their nests. Yeah, definitely make this a must avoid. He mumbled and began writing swiftly onto the paper and filing it for later. Alright, let's see, then grabs a folder. Oh good, the team assignment and reports are in. Then chuckle with a smile. I better look on Team 7 report and see how things went for Naruto. He mused out, though before he could even open the folder or get a chance to look at the report. His door was knocked on, getting the man to sigh, always right when it's about Naruto. I swear. If it's some of the council head coming in to complain or ninjas reporting about Naruto being disturbance. The door opened up with a musing tone of now Lord Hokage. I wouldn't get that upset about some of those who come and speak to you. It was Kakashi Hotaki who waved a 2-finger salute. I guess you got multiple papers about Naruto, huh? He chuckled while closing the door behind him. Ah, Kakashi, sorry about that. Sarutobi smiled and relaxed in his chair. Just this morning meeting about the Chunin exams got some of the council members bit worked up or concerned about things. He stated while folding his hands. Thankfully they spare me their nonsense about holding Naruto's skills back. Or banishing Mambo Jumbo. Stated the Kage who rests his elbows onto the desk. Speaking of your timing, I was just about to read your report. That Team 7 took for Tazuna on the Land of Waves, he grinned. Then blinked his eyes when Kakashi's expression suddenly turned sheepish while rubbing the back of his neck. I take it didn't go too well. Sarutobi asked curiously, moving an open hand forward. Wanting the young man to go and take a seat, which he happily does so and leans on his lap and knees. Could say that, but I will give my report later. There's other important matters to discuss. Stated Kakashi with a firm tone. And well, it has to do with the fact of me being sensei to Team 7. Oh? Sarutobi leaned back bit surprised, he thought Kakashi loved the team. He sent good reports about the three and how well they were working together, well when they wanted to. And never seen such diversity of teamwork in his life. Are the kids fighting one another? Cause that wasn't my intention. He chuckled sheepishly, I know Naruto can be a bit brash about being with others. Kakashi I smiled, oh no, Naruto is a great student, along with Sakura and Sasuke. He interrupted the third. Having the man to raise a brow and lifted up his pipe with his teeth. It is the matter of well, here. Kakashi then leans back and stuffed a hand into his pocket. You see, I don't have a problem training them at all, but it is something that you left me. That's been puzzling me and I am afraid that I'll have to reconsider entering Team 7 into the Chunin exams. And pulls out a paper and walks over to the man. Something I left you? That is indeed puzzling, I don't recall adding any notes or leaving messages when I made the team decisions. Stated the man and accepted the paper, but let's see if I can help out with this matter. He hummed and opens the folded paper and reads through it out loud. I Hokage decree that you can do whatever you want with one Naruto Uzumaki and one Sakura Haruno. But it is my best regards and you that you focus entirely on training and improving Sasuke Uchiha's skills and abilities. Sarutobi then tilt his head ajar. Weird, it's my handwriting that for sure, or at least similar to how I write. Then look to Kakashi, whose eyes didn't change from their suspicion expression. Especially when Sarutobi says, heck, if I were to leave a message or note to any of the sensei, I would have spoke to any of you as if I was just a regular person. Not using my title to say whatever this crap is. And did what he does with the Naruto hate reports. Moves it over to the shredder and let the machine eat it, then sighs and blew out some smoke. Before leering and hardening his gaze, I take it that you took that into heart and only have been training Sasuke. This was troubling, he didn't want the Uchiha to feel like he is special. Not like this, or given the fact he is a sole survivor of the Uchiha clan. And boy did Kakashi tremble when he felt the anger rising in the Hokage. Hot Aki, yup, he's in trouble. Once your last name and the only thing to be called out from the Hokage. You're royally screwed, and also that means you screwed up big time. Kakashi didn't bother to make an excuse or try arguing, he screwed up. Plain and simple, yeah I did, which is why I came to apologize for it. It took me a while to laughter the land of waves, along with Naruto approaching me about it. That I got suspicious and needed answers from you. Then lift his head up and nearly turn white when the man glared and began drumming his fingers against the top of his desk. Not even a simple smoke came out from the pipe. And pray tell me, Kakashi, how exactly, then leans forward and raised his folded hands close to his face, with only his gray eyes looking at the man. Do you intend to rectify this? The Chunin exams are in 3 weeks. And if I read this report, he then goes tapping his finger against the folder. Something will properly tell me exactly what kind of things you've been teaching the boy. While neglecting Miss Haruno and Mr. Uzumaki. Kakashi gulped and can feel the sweat pouring down his forehead. Yeah, he is going to be dead if he doesn't have a good idea. Well, there was that backup. Well, he began stuttering and stretching his collar. After Naruto approached me yesterday about that, I had actually gone and gave him a better teacher for both he and Sakura. Who no doubt I believe will welcome the two in their kind of training, he said with an eye smile and began sweating bullets even more. Sarutobi hummed lightly and thought over the many candidates that could help Sakura and Naruto to play catch up with the rest of the students. Though paled and white in his eyes, before literally raising out of his seat. Dear Kami, you didn't send them to my guy, he exclaimed with great worry and concern for both female and male student. Kakashi went white and literally began flailing his hands rapidly. Oh dear gosh, no way. I will never let anyone succumb to my guy and his kind of training schedule. You have to be a monster in order to make anyone suffer from him. Kakashi breathed out with Sarutobi doing the same. Glad to hear Sakura and Naruto won't be learning his ways, especially Naruto. Who knows what kind of shenanigans the blonde ninja could get into if he and Guy were to ever partner up. Grabbing a napkin and wiping his forehead, Sarutobi sat back down on the chair and let out a relaxing breath. That's a relief. No doubt the girl will have nightmares while Naruto will do crazy stunts with Guy's influence. Or that jumpsuit. Then both shuddered at the thought, but now brings up the question, and this got Sarutobi to look curiously at the man. So who exactly did you have mind for substituting? Sarutobi asked. It must be someone really good for Kakashi to suggest them. And the answer he will get will definitely lift his spirits up, even brighten up when Kakashi nods with an eye smile. Hyuga, Kakashi then happily chuckle. I know she isn't exactly a full-on genin sensei, but the way she diligently helps and works with her stepdaughter Haku while also helping Ino. Then folds his hands. I have no doubt that Mia will enjoy working alongside Sakura and Naruto. Then snicker, I even told Naruto if he wanted to also bring Hinata. Then grimace lightly and felt his high road becoming a low road when Sarutobi grinned. You do know that once word gets out to her about how you neglected Naruto and Sakura, she is going to enjoy dissing your ignorance of not training them while calling you a terrible sensei. Sarutobi stated and chuckled when the Cyclops lower his head with purple coloring on his face. Don't remind me, she had similar experience like that. When her own sensei neglected her and ignored her just because of being racist. Not like to work with Hyuga and all, she practically had to self-taught herself with help from me, Kurenai, Guy and Asuma. Don't forget that Kushina also helped her out here and there before becoming close with Minato. Chuckle Sarutobi. Course it was only one time they met before Mia began working better with her team. He then spun the chair around and looks towards the window, smiling at his reflection. How funny to think it circles back around. Now it is going to be Mia returning the favor to Kushina's son. Then chuckle while blowing some smoke. I remember how the two gotten close too when Naruto was halfway through his 3rd year in the academy. 5 years ago at the Hokage office stood a young woman wearing in her Anbu-like gear. Standing in front of the familiar room and office, though with a bit of a younger 3rd Hokage. who was reading through some reports of her latest mission alongside her partner Weasel, who is about 2 years older than the young woman named Mia Hyuga. Well, I have to say this is Sarutobi then sighed in annoyance. This is your 5th probation this week, Mia. I understand that things can be tricky when dealing with daimyo from another country and how, well. He then sweat dropped from the written report from the girl. Being hands-on with female, I'm sorry Lord Hokage. But I couldn't just let him do as he please. Let alone start talking to me and Weasel as if we're just women to please. Growled Mia, wearing a fox mask. Then turned her attention to Weasel, who giggled lightly. You have such horrible time hiding your emotions, Mia, that you lose your cool. Stated Weasel and turned her attention at the girl. I mean, come on, you're what, 20 years old and you still behave like a teenager. Scolded the teasing partner. Either way, he deserved what he gotten for speaking to me like that. Exclaimed Mia and then shook when Sarutobi slammed the paper down and had the two standing rigid. Alright, enough, Weasel, you can go and finish up your duty. Fox, you stay put as I am not done with you yet. Informed the Hokage, watching the partner nod and quickly disappearing in a puff of smoke. While Mia stood there with a sigh. Kicking him in the balls as you wrote won't make the mission easier. Stated Sarutobi with a wince, pulling back from his desk and standing up. Honestly, and what he sent me after you two guided him back home. Then snicker. Told me that he will never underestimate Leaf Kunoichi again. And actually praise you for your diligence. Then snicker when the shoulder on Mia relaxed a bit, then groaned. She still acts like a 16-year-old, despite her age. I hear about coming along, sorry for being blunt Lord Hokage, but what's the punishment this time? Mia stated coldly, trying to mask her emotions. Despite her trembling body saying otherwise or afraid of being revoked from her ninja duties. Just had the man laughing and patting her shoulder lightly. Come on now, like the other probation you went through. They're not bad at all. Then wince when her tone was suddenly acid, she then shudder when saying. Having me work along with Guy and being forced to wear a jumpsuit for nearly a week. Was hell, Lord Hokage, at this rate I am ready for whatever other hell you have for me. She then bow lightly, again sorry for being blunt. Nah, you're in the right for that, I should have thought that punishment carefully. Then shook his head. Not only that, but Mia had even learned some training methods from the crazy man. He just wished she wouldn't push herself with those chakra weights, 150 pounds for both legs and arms must be crushing her. But yeah, this time for your punishment. Then got interrupted when a loud voice could be heard from the hall. Causing him and Mia to turn their attention and flinch lightly when they heard a loud thump from the door. Naruto got a pull, remember. The secretary voice could be heard, giggling of the boy forgetting. Whose young voice laughed and opens it up. Old man, hey old man. A young springing Naruto called out as he hops his way over to the man and looks up to him brightly. You promise that you will attend the academy with me. For relative day. Chuckled the boy excitingly while swinging his arm forward and back, not even waiting for him as he goes and grabs the man's arm and began tugging. Come on, come on. Though is failing to pull him. Sarutobi made sure to be firmly plant his feet on the floor, but laughed. Naruto, it is still early for that to begin. I told you, the relative day doesn't start till lunch. Informed the man, hearing a soft giggle from Mia, getting him to look at her. Then down to Naruto and then back to her. I know, grunted Naruto as was growling and doing everything in his power to pull Sarutobi towards the door. I just really want to spend some time with ya out in the streets. See the sights and check out my home before we go. Then turns around trying to use his little shoulders to pull the man. And a light bulb click in Sarutobi's head while smiling towards Mia. Who behind the mask blinked her eyes and then widened them before shaking her head rapidly while whispering out no. Actually, I have a better idea, Naruto. He snickered silently when he heard Mia groaned and whining out, don't do this to me. He turned Naruto around and then had him facing towards Mia. Since the villagers will probably bother me if I do come to your house, why not have my Anbu Fox here go with you instead? He stated and laughed when the boy hummed with interest. Mia was glaring daggers at the third while gritting her teeth, shouting silently in her head. Don't you dare rope me into joining Naruto's academy relative day. Then turned white when Naruto shouted out. That's an awesome idea, old man. Exclaimed the young energetic blonde boy, making Mia to stand there like a statue and twitching her lip a bit. Then heard the boy suddenly squeaking out, oh, but she can't be wearing the mask. Chuckled the young kid while turning to Sarutobi, who grinned. I wouldn't be able to know her name and be super weird if I called her Fox Ni-chan. This had Mia stiffing her shoulder and lightly getting mad but blushing behind the mask. What the hell is wrong with my fox mask? She then slumped her shoulders and almost let out an audible groan when Sarutobi nodded his head while facing her. That is true, that is indeed true, Naruto. Fox. Why not remove your mask and introduce yourself properly to young Naruto here? I am sure if he knows your face and name, the two of you will get along greatly. Beamed Sarutobi and could feel the kill intent heading his way of frustration. The girl muttered lightly and then sighs, alright fine, and reaches up to remove the mask from her face, then shook her head lightly to let out her long blue hair, then opened her pale blue eyes and stared down at Naruto with little emotion. Hello Naruto-san, my name is Hyuga Mia, she stated with a bored tone, getting gust of wind to blow inside the room. She's weird. This made Mia had a tick mark while enlarging her head. Watch who you're calling weird. She yelled out and then blushed when Naruto laughed and points at her. I knew she had personality, only someone weird will try and hide their emotions. She's perfect old man. Which had Mia growling and glaring daggers at the boy. Wondering exactly how he even got her to show emotion. Mia here is quite a rare Anbu Naruto, but still a respectful one. So be on your behavior. Sarutobi stated and watched the boy running to Mia, grabbing her hand and going out the door. With her yelping and shouting at Naruto to slow down as they made their way down the halls, with the secretary waving. I will, don't worry. Called out Naruto to Sarutobi, only for Sarutobi to snicker and shake his head before crossing his arms, having a smirk. I was more directing that to Mia. He then shrugs and figured to get back to work. Curious of how the day will transpire between the two of them. After all, they compliment each other very greatly for being wild cards. After they had left and Naruto bringing Mia to his apartment room. The air of the room was filling up with a lot of tension between Mia and Naruto. Naruto sitting at his small dining room table, kicking his feet up and down, while lightly making pop noises with his mouth. With Mia just silently leaning against the side of his doorway, staring back at him, not moving an inch or doing much of anything. Making this quite an interesting start for his day, and it's only 8 AM. So I'm hungry? He asked with a smile and then falter a bit when she shook her head no. Making the boy to lightly look away and scratch his cheek. You sure? I bet working as an Anbu make quite an appetite. He smiled and then that smile falter when Mia shook her head again. Look, I know Hokage made me come along with you and pretend to be your relative. Mia started saying while looking away. But not really in the mood to talk, okay? Had a bit of a rough day with my client. She stated and shifted her gaze at Naruto, who let out a low oh and grins. Ah, that's why you're pouting, is because the client wasn't working with ya. I get it. Naruto stated and had her raising a brow. Teachers are like that to me sometime, even though I don't know why. Then snicker. Which is why I get my revenge by doing pranks on them and having them get covered in stuff. Then blink his eyes, oh except for Iruka-sensei. He grinned and continued to kick his feet faster. Why? Mia asked and then nearly laughed when the blunt answer she got from the boy was. Because he treats me to ramen. That's what makes him the best teacher. Grinned Naruto, before hearing his stomach growling and laughing. Oh, speaking of. It's breakfast time. He then grunted out when he hopped off the chair and made his way to the fridge. Feeling Mia's gaze on him when doing so and opens the fridge up. Though this had Mia nearly gagging at the horrible smell coming from the fridge while doing everything to keep her breakfast in. While lying, the boy seeing it wasn't bothering him at all. Let's see, I know have milk in hay. Naruto stumbled back when Mia approached him and then watched the girl going down on her knees and began rummaging through the fridge. Hey, if you were hungry, shouldn't have said so. Though paused when he watched the girl pulling out the lunch meat. Hey, what are you doing? He shouted, while then grimaced when she nearly puked and began tossing the food into the trash. Hey. That's my food you're throwing, then nearly fell back when she glared at him with a harsh look. One he seen the old man wear. Naruto, these are nearly a month old. They gone bad and will even make you terribly sick. She announced and continued grabbing more of the food, getting the boy to let out a huh. Seeing more and more food from the fridge, even the freezer. Being thrown out, to which was upsetting him. For crying out loud, who went and got you these? Do they know that you could actually die from eating all these bad and moldy food? She then stood up and walks over to trash bin to rid the rest of the food. What do you mean? The people at the grocery store told me they were, then squeaked when she whipped her head at him and chuckled nervously. You taking the sibling thing quite literal for someone who wasn't interested. He sheepishly said and then saw her sighing. Come on, we're going shopping. Mia muttered out and walked over to him, making the boy to stare confusingly before being grabbed by the wrist, then being tugged along. Not even you deserve this kind of food, let alone, I won't let people treat a child in such ill manner. Growled Mia, only to feel herself stop as well, arms stretched, before turning her gaze at him. You're hurting my wrist. He said softly and bit scared. Though happily smiled when she yelped and loosened her grip, no worries. Iruka and old man Kage tend to do that sometime. I just then looks away shyly, didn't want to say anything to them. In case they get mad. If that is true then. Mia then felt her heart skipping a beat when the boy looked at her with a fond smile. Laughing lightly and scratching his cheek bashfully when he said. Well, you feel different from those two. And that you probably won't yell at me for speaking up. He stated softly and then watched Mia's expression going from confusion to then softening. Plus I don't know why, but I keep getting this cool vibe from ya. He grinned, getting the girl to click her tongue and proudly smile. That I am cool, I don't let those treat children no matter what age. Be treated as such. Then did her best to fight out saying aw when Naruto grinned and happily grabbed her hand and called her. Cool, then shall we go Ni-chan? You did say that food had gone bad, we might as well hurry before school time starts. Grinned the boy and had her staring for a bit and smiled. Nodding her head at the same time saying yes. Even going far as asking what kind of food he wanted or likes to eat. In which the happy energetic boy sent the question back, doing a back and forth with Mia. That it got to the point the young Anbu was beginning to laugh and giggle throughout the day, that got Naruto laughing along with her. Even more so when he noticed how despite the disdain looks he gets from the villagers. Like a true sister will go and defend him while shouting at the group of what they're looking at. Even going far to even threatening them, which scared the boy greatly at how much energy this woman has. The old man wasn't kidding, Mia is quite expressive. Were the thoughts the young boy had as the two enter the grocery store. Nearly laughing his ass off when Mia immediately made a beeline to those who sold him those bad groceries in the first place, though when she brought them into another room. The only thing he could hear was yelps and screams of begging mercy, to then the owners of the grocery store turning a new light and began apologizing to the young boy. What shocked Naruto the most though after Mia scolded them as she puts it, the pair were surprised at how when walking and going through the aisles with Naruto. Along with the boy asking different questions here or there while being curious of how long the owners worked here. He had somehow worked his way into their hearts and continued to which he knew it was heartfelt and truly apologized to him and saying how they should have gotten to know him better than saying any time he is running out of food or groceries. To come on by and shop any time. When they returned to the apartment with tons of bags in hand. The young boy let out a happy cheer and ran over to the table and began placing the bags down. With Mia closing the door behind her and began putting away different sorts of drinks into the fridge, laughing a bit how cute Naruto was being with the food he was pulling out. I never thought they would even have cup ramen. Didn't think they sell them. He exclaimed and began placing down 14 different ramen cups onto the table. Followed by lunch meat and bread, watching the girls standing up and moving over to the table. Hey Mia Ni-chan, what is it like being a ninja? He asked her as he goes climbing up onto the chair, then standing on it with his hands on the table. Do ninja do cool things, or go on amazing adventures and protecting princesses? He bombarded her with so many questions, it was hard to keep up. The 20-year-old laughed as she goes grabbing 2 cup noodles and walks over to the stove. One at a time, one at a time. She exclaimed, hearing the laughter and getting Naruto bouncing about in his chair. It really depends Naruto, sometime missions can be here at home, while other times it can be outside the village. She informed while tilting her head and gave a fox-like smile, and yes. There will be times where a mission requires you to protect an important person to the world, like a princess of some sort. Then face back to the food. And sometime rulers of another land, though then grimace but nearly snorted when Naruto plopped back down on his chair and snicker out those who can be quite grabby and look down on ninja right. Getting another snort from Mia, who turned and nodded her head. Then brought the food over to the table, before stopping Naruto from grabbing it. It's hot Naruto, I don't want you burning yourself. Do what I do, okay? She smiled and opens the lid from the tab, carefully across which Naruto hummed and does the same thing, then smiled at her. Then watches her use the chopsticks, thanking for the food and grab some noodles. Before blowing on them, in which Naruto repeated what she did and enjoy his first ever breakfast with somebody at his apartment. Laughing and giggling along with Mia, listening to different stories she told him along with some of the low-rank missions she went through. Up to when they had to head on out and walk towards the academy school, in which when they left the apartment and the building itself. Mia, out of instincts quickly spun around and grabs a kunai, before slashing and cutting up what seems to be cans and glass bottles in half, before blinking her eyes, and then glared at who threw them. Of course when she did that stunt, it scared the crap out of the villagers who were regular scheduled to attack Naruto. To start screaming and running away, I don't think so. She shouted and did a hand sign that had Naruto eyes shining brightly. Shadow clone jutsu. Announced Mia and made 4 copies of herself, in which the clones darted and leaped to the rooftops, chasing after the attackers and capturing them. In which the girl huffed before widening her eyes, then facepalm at what she just did. Shoot. Great, that will add on to the probation number again, can't believe I just used a technique in front of Naruto. After being told not to. That was totally wicked. Screamed Naruto, making Mia to blink her eyes and look down at him. Before leaning back and laughing lightly, while raising her arm up from the boy hopping and bouncing around her. That was cool, I never seen a ninja technique like that before. I didn't know you could make copies of yourself like that. He shouted and glowed brighter when he saw the clones that were after the attackers. Were physically touching and holding onto them in the distance, and they're real. Then whip his attention at Mia. Who gulped and smiled sheepishly, you a superhero. Then collapsed onto the floor dramatically and began laughing, unsure of how to even answer that question. then gets up and shook her head. No, you sure, cause only a superhero will have that kind of technique. Chuckled Naruto and then laughed when she just openly laughs and rubs his head. On you, we gotta get to the school before we're late. Stated Mia and watched Naruto nodding, then laughed when the girl happily picked him up and placed him over her shoulders. Holding onto his ankles, then grinned when he looked confusingly at her. Alright, hang on, show you how us ninjas get around the village. And began leaping towards the rooftops, hearing Naruto shouting in excitement and hanging onto the girl, feeling the wind blowing against his hair and face as they race across town. After a while and making it on time, the woman surprised both students and their parents. When she suddenly came onto school grounds from nowhere, getting the students to stare wide-eyed, whispering out cool from Mia's entrance. Even more so when they saw who was riding her shoulder, which was Naruto. This got a lot of sneers and hateful looks from most of the parents, but not the ones from the clans. Who couldn't help but chuckle and shake their head, muttering out only Mia. When Mia lifted Naruto down, the boy is dazed and wobbling a bit from the wild ride. Making her to suddenly hold him upright before he fell, then smiled when he shook himself out of it and grinned to her. Naruto. A voice suddenly announced, making him and Mia to turn attention, and then smiled at who it was. Haruka-sensei. Chimed Naruto and fist bumped the teacher, who walked over and happily rubbed his head. Hey, look who I brought for relative day. Naruto said and points to Mia, who was about to bow. Only to stop midway and sweat dropped. She's one of the coolest ninjas who will be my sister today. Old man wanted us to be partner for this year event and I can't wait to introduce her to everyone. And went on to a spiel about the day he had with Mia, with the woman laughing lightly and shrinking down a bit at Haruka's well brotherly/father-like look at her. Then hums a bit before it finally clicked. Oh Mia. Then smiled, sorry didn't recognize you in your Anbu gear. I usually see you in that yukata dress and sweats. Smiled the man and extend his arm out, which Mia happily accepted. Glad to hear you're taking place as sister for Naruto. I bet he will enjoy it greatly, as well as you too. Then moved an arm forward after seeing everyone heading on inside. Come on in, the event is just about to start, I will tell everything you need to know. Thanks, it has been a while since I attend relative day. She softly said and followed the duo. With Naruto continuing with his story and day so far with Mia. Walking down the familiar halls of the Ninja Academy, seeing some bulletin boards hanging up on the yellow bright walls, having students and teacher names on them. Along with what classes they were in, different children and parents could be seen chatting and walking about throughout the halls. Listening to the activities everyone will be doing or the children will be doing, to even announcing how that everyone get to spend time watching a practice battle with the children. They still do that? Mia asked confusingly, walking into the classroom, spotting Mizuki at his desk going through some papers and looking up towards them, giving a smile which Mia felt like it was forced. Yeah, granted I don't like the idea of there being practice battles for relative day. Haruka began saying and chuckle. But it's tradition and it helps grows a bond for the students and their relatives, then grimace, sometime but not all the time. Earning a giggle from the woman as she then got shoved a bit. Laughing from some of the students running in and getting their spots. Sorry about the craziness, it's always like this every year. Then step aside when he spotted more of his students coming in, one of them being Hinata, who stopped between Haruka and Mia, then look up towards Mia. Who stared down and smiled softly at the girl, who smiled back with a blush and giggle out, you have beautiful eyes. She said and then felt her face heating up when Mia compliment back. Well, same to you. Lavender is such a pretty color. Mia giggled out and laughed when the girl shrunk her head deeper into her shirt and gave a happy giggle before heading inside. Followed by Hiashi, who snickered and shook his head, so on and so forth. The rest of them were coming one by one. But Mia happily nods to Itachi, who responded back with his own nod, entering inside with Sasuke, who didn't bother to acknowledge Mia at all. Making her to grit her teeth lightly and did her best to ignore it. Though leaned back when a flower suddenly appeared in front of her, here you go. Giggle what seemed to be a platinum blonde girl, giving it to the smile. Go on, take it will complement your hair. It was Ino Yamanaka, giving out flower for the day and wanted to give one to her. Thanks. Mia then just shook her head. All these kids are going to melt her heart, she waved at the girl and then bowed to the dad. Feeling like Haruka is purposely having her stand near the classroom entrance to meet everyone. Especially when more clan members began entering and saying their hellos, while Tsume hard punching Mia on the shoulder. Making the woman to hiss lightly and quickly rubs the spot, earning a chuckle from Haruka. Then steps back a bit to let Choji and his parents to enter. Who nodded at him and happily pat Mia's shoulder, telling her that she should visit their clan district more often. Making her chuckle and nod lightly, followed by the Nara clan, which Shikaku just yawned and waved lazily at the girl, followed by Shikamaru. It was quite eventful, she has to say, and tough on the account out of everyone in the room. With relatives needing to stand in the back, besides Itachi. Mia, who was in the middle of the room, was sweating bullets and feeling quite nervous. Why? Well, it doesn't help that she is quite shorter than most of the adults here, despite being 20 years old. Mia, who is only couple inches taller than Itachi, who is younger than her by 2 years. Mia felt quite small compared to everyone else and felt like the world was going to collapse onto her. Thankfully, the event came and gone quite quickly, with every student having to give a good report for the morning or activities they have done with their relative. Which was difficult for her and Naruto, on the account she was just commissioned to the boy today. Only activity they had was this morning, which had her feeling bad for the boy. No doubt the others, when Hokage couldn't come here with him, gave him trouble, though she couldn't help but felt her face heating up and turning red with all the praises Naruto was giving about Mia. Even getting some laughter and snorts from the head clan when he went and told everyone how she used a really cool superhero move to apprehend some bad people at his apartment. Making her do a good impression of Hinata, trying to slide her Anbu mask in front of her face to avoid from being stared at. Although one person in particular in the corner of the room, having dark blonde hair, glaring towards Mia, sneering heavily with hateful purple eyes before shifting her gaze over at Naruto. 2 then having a sickly grin across her lips while licking it. Plotting a way to completely ruin the Anbu's reputation fully and possibly break her friendship with the demon brat for good. No worries, dear, you won't have to feel embarrassed about having to spend time with a demon. Your slave work will be over soon. It was nearing afternoon now, almost 3 p.m. as everyone began heading out and leaving the school grounds. For the children to go ahead and start playing outside and near the playground. Iruka, who was listing the children that were heading out, smiled happily at the parents and guided them with his hands of where the snacks and drinks are out in the picnic area. For them to sit down and relax while watching their children play. He saw Mia coming out, who looked to be quite bashful all of a sudden, making the man chuckle and laugh. Wow, never seen someone be so nervous on relative day. He joked and watched a woman walk over to the wall and plop herself against it. So many questions. She whined out and looked at Iruka with saucer eyes and waterfalls pouring down her face. How the heck you do it? She asked, never in her life, even as an Anbu. She ever gotten so many children and some adults approaching her and asking so many different questions or topics. That she had to get out of there and not sorry for using a smoke bomb to get out of there. This had Iruka just boasting in laughter and shaking his head, continuing to count the students. Years of practice, Mia, years of practice. He snickered while twirling the pen around. Honestly, for a first-timer you did not half bad. Usually people immediately leave Naruto behind and go back to doing their own thing. Then places the clipboard by his underarm, grinning. Thank you. This with a tired Mia opening her eyes look at the man confusingly. Huh? Thank you for what? She asked curiously and saw his smile grow into a fond one. Thank you for doing this for Naruto, then closed his eyes. It means the whole world to him, to having someone pretend to be his relative or even parent. Then turns and faces towards the blonde ninja who was hanging out around Hinata. Who was blushing up a storm from the boy speaking to her, and then looked at Iruka and Mia before grinning widely and waved at the 2. Making Hinata to look and shyly wave as well. Having Mia to wave happily at the 2, listening to Iruka continuing to speak. He is like you and me, honestly, Mia, no parents and no siblings. He began speaking and had the girl widening her eyes. I tried to do everything to listening those around me about the boy, which was wrong of me to do so. Then chuckle and twirl his finger towards Naruto. Telling him to go back to what he was doing and continue playing with Hinata. After finally getting over it and I stopped listening to other teachers about how to take care of Naruto. I decided to look through his eyes and finally saw him for who he was. Then snicker when he turned and saw Mia having quite the happy and fond smile on her face. I don't think need to ask though, your look says it all. Which had her snickering and turned at him with a fox-like smile, that obvious huh. I honestly never seen him like that, not from the beginning. She informed and surprised Iruka, all I saw was a kid who needed someone to be there for him. And well, he found him. She grinned and winked at Iruka. Getting him to sheepishly blush and look away, what it's true. If you weren't there for him, Iruka, who knows how he will turn up. Giggle Mia, who did it zoom and punches his back, then yelps when he flew forward and hits the ground hard. Sorry. I turned off my weights without realizing it. She exclaimed, then closed her eyes when he scolded out her name, earning the entire school of children to laugh. Later that night. People were rushing about and running through the rooftops, coming to stops here and there, looking between some of the buildings, along with opening up some of the trash cans and nearby sheds. Have you found him yet? Shouted one of the ninjas towards the sky, watching few ninjas leaping over them. Not yet, we're still looking for him. They responded back. Having those in the alleyways to join up with them and continue their search. How can one kid go missing? You sure the reports were correct? Shouted a ninja wearing a hound mask, turning his attention to his allies. We're certain. Weasel was the first one to notice that Naruto went missing. Announced an Anbu wearing a bear mask. How she knows we're not entirely sure, considering Night Fox was with him for relative day. Yeah, that's what worries me. The hound Anbu whispered while facing forward and hardening his gaze. Mia wouldn't mess something like this up at all, nor would she let Naruto out of her sight. Then growled after coming to a stop and began breathing lightly, with Bear standing next to him out of breath. Alright, let's go and check the residential area, no doubt some of the villagers probably caused trouble. Right, though I think Raven Hawk and Night Fox are over there searching as well. Bear mentioned while shaking his head. I don't understand something though. He suddenly said, making Hound to turn and look at him. Night Fox is a Hyuga, then why doesn't she use her Byakugan too? Right, you're still new, Hound then turned and faced them. With Raven Hawk and Night Fox, jumping and leaping down between buildings, alleyways and even sewer system. With Night Fox hair all tousled up and in a mess, looking to be quite rushed and worried about the boy as she goes kicking some of the trash cans, bins and even some abandoned buildings' doors. Shouting and calling out Naruto's name. Night Fox suffers a rare disease when she was born, a disease that only affects the Byakugan. Chances of this happening is 1,000,000 to 1. To know that a Hyuga has this trait, Hound began informing Bear of why it is Night Fox or Mia is unable to use her Byakugan. With the woman coming to a stop near the park area, hanging off from her legs, panting and breathing heavily while then pounding the tree bark she's leaning against, then lift her head up at Raven Hawk. Is that their eyes have pupils in them, unlike other Hyuga who don't have pupils. Those who have pupils in their eyes is chance that they suffer this illness, or I should say blindness. Blindness, you mean Hyugas can be born blind? Bear asked confusingly. Like I said, it's a rare disease, however, instead of being born blind. Night Fox nodded after being told from Raven Hawk how he couldn't find the boy anywhere. Directed him to head towards the business district in front entrance of the village. Fearing that something might have happened or the boy was taken somewhere, with her going to go and check the Hokage monument. Instead her Byakugan got the illness, and whenever she uses it beyond 5 minutes at a time, it will leave her blind for an entire day. Panting and breathing heavily, the woman ascended the steps and stairs leading up to the top of the mountain. With a door in front of her, she went and burst through, with the blinding moonlight hitting her senses, and then came to a sliding stop. Before shouting, "Naruto!" and gasps at the sight in front of her. "About time you showed up," Night Fox Weasel stated coldly, holding roughly onto an injured and bruised Naruto. Who was panting and breathing heavily, looking quite scared of what's going on, confused of why it is that one of Old Man's Anbu were attacking him. Mia, who was frozen in shock and fear of who it was that had gone and not only hurt Naruto, but seemingly having the boy start now questioning Anbu, hearing the woman laughing with her head raised, what no witty remark. No one-liners or your lame speeches about not hurting others or using them for their own needs. Nothing. Weasel exclaimed, her blonde hair whipping violently from the wind, along with Mia's own hair doing the same. Weasel, why? Mia asked in disbelief and flinches when she saw the woman move Naruto closer to the edge. Don't. Then stops before taking a step when Weasel shouted. Move and I drop him, then cackled out, and I will do it too, man, it was so easy separating the two of you. Naruto grunts and groans lightly, trying his best to break free or even get loose from the woman holding him. Despite he is lifted up in the air, he at least knows there's some footing here. Night Fox, the great Anbu of sight, my ass, then growled out. Where's that sight now, huh? You didn't bother looking for this boy back at the academy. Thinking he was safe with his friends, safe playing with the other children. Mia gritted her teeth and clenched her fists. Let him go, he did nothing to you at all. She exclaimed while throwing her arm. You have no right to harm. Arm a demon, please, I have every right to do what I want and where I want it. Weasel stated and began tightening her grip on Naruto's neck, causing him to choke. Making Mia to gasp and about to step forward again, only to stop. See. You know it too, you know that he's nothing but a demon, a spawn of a human being. She cackled out, making Naruto to whine and gasp lightly, opening his eyes towards the Fox Anbu. Unable to recall who it was or why they're even here. But odd reason he somehow knows her. What did you do? Mia asked with rising anger as she stared at Naruto, taking notice of the blank expression he has on her. One that they never met before. What did you do to Naruto? She shouted again and grabs onto her short blade, making Weasel to hum amusingly. Oh? You finally noticed, didn't you? Then grinned. You're correct, I did do something to him, an amazing technique that my family only knows. Then darkened her look, a family I once had before that thing attack and destroyed my home in one fell swoop. She continued squeezing Naruto's neck, getting him to choke out in pain. Mia gasped at the sound and ready to move forward, only to suddenly yell out in pain when something invisible hit her. Sending her flying back and up against the entryway back downstairs. The perfect technique that was designed and made for Anbu ranks like me. She continued speaking, sending out another force-like energy to Mia. Who recovered from her crash and immediately dives away from sensing danger. Watching everything slow down as half of the entryway back down, split in half and crumbled into rubble. before having to jump again when sensing another danger approaching, making her roll to a stop and look towards Weasel. As you live up to your name, I doubt you're using Byakugan right now, but it's impressive you can dodge my wind style. Mia growled in irritation and quickly hops onto her feet. I know everything about that stupid wind style of yours. You manipulate the air and make said dense air into a blade. Then fire it forward without needing to use a single hand sign. Mia stated while lifting her blade, is that right? Making the woman to grin under her mask and lick her lips. My, you really did your homework. It's a good thing I am not going to kill you yet. Then snicker, not until after you're filled with guilt. And watches Mia eyes widen and darted swiftly forward, watching Weasel throw Naruto right off the mountain with Mia following right behind. Few days has passed ever since the incident with Weasel. The entire Anbu group were standing attention in front of Sir Toby, who was thinking over the situation of what just transpired. Not only that but somehow, after Mia managed to knock Weasel away and leaped off the mountain. All the while ripping her mask off in order to make Naruto come to senses, who by that time somehow got lucky and grabbed onto a thick tree branch that was coming out from the fourth's right cheek. Afraid and scared of Mia in her fox mask, only to break out whatever mind manipulation technique Weasel had on him. It dispelled when Mia took her mask off and called out to him, rescuing him off the branch before it broke. Sending the two down, but with creative wind palms, Mia was able to safely land on ground level with the boy and just held him, crying and sniffling out of great concern. Saratobi looked towards Mia's reflection on the window, her mask above her head, her long hair cleanly cut from the mid-back. No thanks to Weasel toying with her and preventing her from reaching the edge of the mountain. Thankfully she pulled through and both her and Naruto were safe. When has the time come that I now need to question my Anbu? Mutter Saratobi, getting everyone there to look down shamefully, rubbing their arms lightly. Mia closed her eyes and sniffed lightly. Mia, don't blame yourself. It was not. If I had used my Byakugan when Naruto didn't return back to me at the academy, none of this would have happened. She whimpered out and clenched her teeth. I would have never made him become fearful for Anbu or feel like I had abandoned him. She continued saying, trying everything to keep her emotion in check. But couldn't as tears began falling down her face. What kind of sister ever let that happen? This had the other Anbu grunting depressingly, never seeing the girl openly cry like this before. Raven Hawk, who was out there with her, raised his hand gently. Mia, I am sure Naruto would not. Then went quiet when she shook her head. You saw how he reacted to Itachi. He was afraid of you, he was afraid of Kakashi, and he was afraid of Yamato. She shouted in sadness and rage, trying her best to wipe the tears away. One of them, who was among the men not wearing their mask, had silently smiled to themselves and grinned wickedly. Only to hum and face the door. Along with everyone else doing the same when they heard Naruto stop. You can't barge in there when the Hokage had clearly announced to everyone in the village not to come. It was Iruka. This had Mia gasping and began fumbling about with her mask, which juggled between hands before slapping her hand against it before it fell. Quickly strapping it on and heard Naruto shout, I know Iruka-sensei, but this is an emergency. Old man needs to know this, along with I need to find Mia. He screamed while pulling the door open. Having everyone there to look and stare at him. Noticing the boy shivering at the sight of the Anbu, having all of them -1 feel downright awful of the trauma he may had. Only to then blink their eyes when he shook his head and suck in his fear before walking on over to Saratobi, but at the same time looking at the different Anbu and coming to a pause in the middle of the room. Naruto, something the matter? Saratobi asked curiously, noticing how intent the boy was of finding his savior, no doubt. Before looking ahead and then shrunk his head before staring at the floor and then away. I am sorry Lord Hokage, Naruto didn't give me much explanation of coming here. Iruka began saying while rubbing his head, all he kept saying, I need to speak with you and need to find Mia. The man then looked around, spotting the woman nowhere, considering he never seen the girl with her mask. Really? Why are you looking for Mia, Naruto? Saratobi asked and then smiled softly when the boy looked at him and then away out of shyness. Before biting his lip, come on, it's okay. He assured him. Making the boy to sigh out and gently rubbed his hand. I want to find her first before I say anything. Naruto suddenly exclaimed, looking around once more of where the woman might be. With Mia, trembling and sweating bullets of what it is he wanted to say, but at the same time not wanting to be found out. Especially when he got closer and closer to Saratobi's desk before stopping in front of Itachi. Who had clicked his tongue to get Naruto's attention, then with his folded hands for Naruto to see. Tilt them upwards and gently points, sliding the pointed finger between two others. In the direction of where Mia was, making the girl to gulp loudly, throwing cusses towards Itachi of her spot. And Naruto, after turning and staring towards the Anbu, who looked to be wearing a slightly cracked fox mask, began running over to her and approaching the girl, making everyone there to eye his actions. with Mia softly looking down at him, afraid of him saying anything hurtful to her or possibly not wanting to be around her anymore. She prayed he just see her as any other Anbu, then notice him tilting towards the right and then left. And widened his blue eyes at the Anbu's hair, recalling how that happened back at the mountain scuffle. Before grinning widely, "It is you, Mia." He suddenly called out and chuckled happily, "I was hoping you'd be here and you are." He snickered, watching the woman to hum confusingly before removing her mask. Letting the back of her blue hair spike upward, staring with confused blue eyes. Then saw a blush on his face, then looks away. "I never got to show you what I made for crafts and art today, you kind of just disappeared." Then began scratching his cheek, "It isn't the best work of mine, but I didn't think you cared." He then looked up at her, copying her fox-like smile. "So I want to show you." Then turned to Iruka, who was laughing and smiling now understanding why he wanted to find Mia. He went ahead and grabs Naruto's backpack, walking over to hand it over. The boy takes it and began rummaging through the bag a bit, with sounds of school items and other stuff rattling about. Before the boy let out a soft ah, then pulled out what looked to be a rolled up paper. Mia felt her world quiet and her eyes becoming wider at what he was showing. It was a drawing, poor drawing but good enough for Naruto's standards. Of a chibi block like different Mias with different Narutos on the paper, who too were chibi and block like. Things they have done when they first met and exciting fun they had together, with Chibi Naruto and Chibi Mia in the center cheek to cheek with their fox-like smiles, with the words above them. "Thank you for being my Ni-chan for the day. Present day." At one of the training grounds of Konoha, Naruto along with Hinata and Sakura had gone in search for where the Hyuga mother is and at with her stepdaughter Haku and possibly Ino. Upon getting there and spotting the woman, wearing a blue yukata-like shirt with floral flower-like designs around the sides and going down to her waist, with the fire emblem on her left shoulder blade, with the sleeves reaching down to her elbows. Wearing the traditional leaf headband around her neck, gently placing down what looked to be the Uzumaki scroll that Naruto brought. From how he was told by Kakashi yesterday, about Mia being able to help him out with his elemental jutsu. Of the woman having those same elements like him, along with learning she is the first ever Hyuga to being able to use the shadow clone technique. Watches her place the scroll onto her sleek blue long sleeve pants, smiling at the group in front of her. Who were listening to the woman, explaining or telling the story of how she and Naruto became friends and knew each other. Laughing on the inside at the way most of the girls, which were Sakura, Hinata and Haku. No Ino as she couldn't make it in time, all the while being busy with Team Asuma. The woman took notice of the girls sniffling lightly and having quite fondness in their expressions from listening to the tale. And yes, we were able to apprehend Weasel or Lanarichu into custody. By blowing her cover and tried attacking Naruto in a room filled with Anbu. After he detailed out her looks at the time, being tricked into following her outside the academy. But the sounds of the lake waters gently brushing and sweeping up against the shore. The woman laughed when Naruto chuckled sheepishly, "Yeah, she told me at the time that if I find something at the Hokage mountain for you, it will make you even more happy." Getting an awe from Haku, with Hinata giggling happily of Naruto wanting to thank Mia at that time. Sakura smiled softly and then looked down towards the dirt, tons of thoughts going through her head. About things that she knew about Naruto, only to be told differently when she listened to this tale. "Mia." Sakura lifted her head up, making the woman in front to hum at her. "I know Ino will probably tell me tomorrow, but I hope you and Haku could ask me this." Then points at Haku, who stared with her brown eyes and then smiled with a happy blush. But what made Haku become really close friends with Naruto? And then nearly laughed out loud when Mia gave her famous fox smile. Placing the scroll gently back into the box and slap her knees announcing out how they got close together. Getting a nod from Hinata and Sakura. It was actually Haku here who befriended Naruto first. She giggled out. It was kind of instant friendship. It was couple days later after officially adopting Haku. Mia then sits upright and crosses her arms, snickering at the bashful looks Naruto and Haku were wearing, with the older girl pretending to whistle. And having Naruto come visiting the house once in a while to spend time with the girl. Till one day she went and asked Naruto where she could find some flowers to thank me with. The boy had gone and told her they were at the Hokage mountain. Then snicker, ever since then and the girl still new to Konoha. I had asked Naruto where she was, for I was very worried Haku gotten lost. Then after telling me, I asked him to stay the next few weeks at home to be sure that Haku doesn't pull a stunt like that again. While giving her a more proper tour around the village. Informed and then claps her hands. "Alright, think that is enough story time," she informed, having everyone in agreement and getting up from the ground. Dusting themselves off and ready to resume the water walking exercise. "Naruto, before you get started," Mia suddenly announced. Alerting the boy to her and then smiled happily at what she asked next while being bashful about asking. "Think I could take this scroll back to my place? Read it over some more and make sure it is genuine. I have no doubt, then stops when the boy gave a thumbs up towards her and foxy grin. Making her return the grin back. Sure thing, Mia-sensei. Then spread his arms apart. In fact, I was about to ask you if you could watch over it. When the Chunin exams begin next month. He exclaimed, well then, laughing when the girl shook her head and then smiled sweetly. I will be honest, think I feel good to know it's in your hands. He said with honesty, making the mother to fight back a single tear that threatened to break out. Thank you, Naruto, then shoo him away, letting him know he needed to get started. She bent down and grabs the box before looking up at the training children. There's also a note here, Naruto, for what kind of jutsu I think you will benefit with next. Then finger salute towards the group. Till then, and once I am done with putting the scroll at my place, I will come and give everyone their nature element, okay? Which everyone cheered back and watches the woman leaves. Leaving the 14s to their devices and practice more on the water exercise. Solura, who is focusing and holding hands with Hinata after being told by Mia how if Haku and Hinata were to hold on to Sakura and Naruto's hands when doing this. They help the two to get a good feeling of what kind of chakra flow they'll need for this training. The pink-haired Kunoichi, who was focusing and feeling the flow from Hinata, couldn't help but close her eyes halfway. Guilt and doubt starting to build up inside of her, even feeling disgusted at herself that whenever she looked at Naruto, who is doing his best to keeping his feet from sinking into the lake waters, felt her heart hurting and sinking into depression. For all the negative things she probably had done to him in the past. Yet, has no way of how to apologize to him. This did not go unnoticed by Hinata, who looked at the girl and saw the depression in her eyes. Even more so when the Kunoichi keeps looking at Naruto. It would look even worse, as if blaming herself for something she did to Naruto. Sakura. Hinata silently thought, what kind of pain are you in? To making you have that face. But the Chunin exams 3 weeks away and everyone getting prepared for it. Are all working hard, but Sakura, there's a different kind of exam that she must go through and free herself from her doubts. She just hopes that she's ready to apologize and take whatever response she gets from Naruto. The end. So how was this part? I hope you like it. And if you like it, share this part with your friends and like the video too. And don't forget to subscribe our channel for daily awesome fanfiction. Okay, it's time for me to go. Bye bye.